racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up there!
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome one, welcome all to the iRacing Esports Network. We are SimSpeed TV. This is the international division of the Majors Series. It's the penultimate round of the season, and it's certainly a round where the drivers will be tested more than just about any other round this season. It's the Bathurst 500, half-length Bathurst 1000 around the Mount Panorama circuit. And obviously it's single driver as well. So the drivers are going to be putting in the hard yards around this very difficult public road circuit in country New South Wales. My name's Reese Gardner, and as always, alongside me in the commentary box, Ryan Jones. G'day, Ryan. We are in Australia for the penultimate round of this season, and what a place to do it. I mean, Mount Panorama, what more can you say?
Not much more you can say. It's one of the most revered tracks in the world, one of the most grueling and demanding, probably just right behind the Green Hill itself. When it comes to elevation change, there is nothing like it in Australia, in the world. I don't know what else is close to it. Maybe Spa's got plenty of elevation change, and Eau Rouge and Radion, but this places like the Cutting, the run up the hill, the Dipper, Skyline, and the famed Conrod Straight, and that wild dip in and through the chase. It is just a glorious racetrack, and we're getting a double dose of it this weekend. Of course, I imagine the majority of our viewers have just sat down and watched the top 10 shootout for the Supercars Bathurst 1000. Well, now we've got a 20-minute qualifying dash for the top 10 drivers of the Majors Series. 28 drivers in total for today, but these are the fastest 10 from Q1 and Q2 over the course of the week.
Yes, and we are now in Q3, where every driver gets one more chance to set the fastest time they possibly can and hopefully put themselves on the front row of the grid. This guy we're watching right now is going to be one of the drivers hoping for the best out of this session. Cameron Dance, reigning series champion, of course, the top spot last year. And he's not had the greatest of seasons in 2020. He's had a couple of bad runs in some rounds. And despite not winning a race this season, he still runs second in the championship to Thomas O'Leary. So if he manages to win at this round, he's going to have one more little chance to nab the title in the final round. So this is really important for Cam.
Yeah, it was a little bit surprising when he mentioned that pre-broadcast, actually, that he hadn't won a round, because he's always there. He's always a factor in the races. And last season, he won so many. This is probably his last chance to win, because when we finish off our season at our final round, which is an oval, Cameron isn't an oval driver. I'd say the chances of winning there are pretty slim, and I don't think he'd mind me saying that either. So he wants to win this championship and do it with a win, which, to do so, say, give him a very good chance. He's got to do it now. But that championship fight, you could be won and lost today. You don't want to go to the final round with all the pressure still on you.
No, you don't. And we're going to look at the standings in detail once this session is complete. We'll be able to bring you all up to speed on what's going on in terms of the standings, because we've got quite a few championships going on here. We haven't just got the full-on Drivers' Championship. We've got Pro and Sportsman divisions. We've got the Legends Championship for drivers over 50 years of age. We've got the Teams Championship too, with Pro and Sportsman divisions as well. So everyone's got something to fight for in this series, and we're waiting to see what kind of time Mr. Shane Bowen can put on the board. Of course, teammate to Dwayne Burns at Avatar Auto Racing, and both of those guys have managed to get into this shootout. So first time across the line for Shane Bowen. What's it going to be? 206.98. That is provisional pole. But now Cameron Dance across the line. Let's see if he goes faster. Indeed he does. 205.114. That is nearly 2 seconds taken out of Shane Bowen's time. What about Cameron Dance's teammate, Harold Stadler? He's running pretty high at the moment, coming off a win at Watkins Glen in the Lotus 49 in the previous round, 206.106. That is a second behind his teammate, but still putting him P2. Not a bad run to start things off.
Dwayne Burns as well, coming to the line to complete what should be his first lap. Murray's Corner so tricky to get right. A 90-degree left to finish off the lap. You try to run so deep that you know you're on a good lap, you can throw it away so quickly. It's a 2.70 for him. Last of the timed laps so far, but he won't be too worried about that. Still plenty of time for him to go even quicker still. Now, they'll most likely only be fueled for a couple of laps. Then they'll come back to pit lane and chuck some fresh tyres on. Or rather, that's how I do it, Reese. I wouldn't fuel the car up for the whole 20 minutes, would you?
Nah, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, the tyres can last the distance over a couple of laps at Bathurst, and the fuel, I think, is a bit of an interesting one because these cars are already incredibly hard to drive, as Daniel Stevens is demonstrating through the chase. Got a little bit of oversteer on entry there, and we're seeing some really nice liveries here too, just saying. But coming out of this session, we're not going to see many drivers come away from this with a full tank, or at least a few laps in a tank. Stevens goes to third, because the fuel tank in the rear of these cars, it can actually increase rear stability. So for some drivers, if they don't feel confident in being able to get the best out of these cars on a low fuel load, it might be worth putting a couple extra liters in the tank and getting some of that rear stability back. You might lose some time overall, but you'll feel like you'll be able to get more out of the car.
Under the tree then for Danson. Some wild shots there. Always as the rear end tries to step away from you and that fence on the left starts to protrude, and then over towards McPhillamy, trying to carry as much speed as you can before you dip it down the hill into Skyline. This mammoth drop off that even on iRacing just isn't replicated as much as it really is in real life. Or rather, you can't get the same gist. It is, of course, as steep as it actually is, but you know what I'm saying there, Reese.
Yeah, it's all about perspective. It's all about perspective in a situation like this. When you actually get into the driver's seat, I mean, even on the sim, if you're running a screen setup, you don't quite get the full extent of the elevation change around this place, but in VR, certainly. If you're running a virtual reality headset, Wayne Taylor goes P4, and we've noted that Cameron Dance has gone faster. He's improved his time. He's on a 2:05.0 now, so that's going to be an even harder gap to make up for the other drivers here. What about Matt Danson, then, in the very striking green livery that we're seeing there?
He was fastest at the end of Q1 and Q2. He understeered into that Murray's Corner, so don't expect it to be fantastic. He goes second, 4 tenths away from Dance. That mistake at the last corner would have cost him a couple of tenths at least. Daniel Stevens does quite a bit of racing in this car as well, so expect him to be reasonably quick as he brings it to pit road. He's going to look for some fresh rubber. Will Leslie out of what I'd rather begrudgingly call Penrite Pass, officially saw Griffin's Bend, into the cutting, trying not to let the car oversteer too much on the exit. You get the power down over the nasty bump that exists on the inside of there, and then carrying as much speed through this tricky section. Then across the top, it's all about your momentum. Metal grate on the right, don't hit it, otherwise you're going to the fence on the right. That car was understeering like a pig.
Absolutely it is, and across the top at McPhillamy, he's just managing to keep it together. He's fighting the wheel over the bumps coming down the hill. Will Leslie, remember, is the championship leader. He's got a 130-something point lead over Cameron Dance, so he wants to hook up a lap as best he can, ideally put himself on the front row with Cameron Dance, but I don't know, the way this car looks like it's handling, I think Will Leslie has got his work cut out from here. He gets a bit of a chance to rest on Conrod Straight, but there's always the camber in the road looking to mess you up. He sticks to the middle there. Over the crown.
Listen through the kink.
Flat
Not
out.
a hint of a lift from Will Leslie. gets right around the corner, and then he jumps on that brake pedal. He can carry so much speed and go so deep, it is remarkable.
What about Murray's Corner then?
He's a bit conservative. He's gearing up for a lap here. He took a very conservative line into the Murray's Corner there.
Righto. So I think that tells us he was just giving it an extra lap for the tyres to get some extra heat in them. But he's already gone off track a bit at Hell Corner, so I think that lap is going to be aborted. Dwayne Burns then through Murray's Corner again. He currently sits P8 and
conservative and outlap.
Yeah, definite outlap there.
Hell Corner and Murray's Corner. My God, they are a pain. The only 90-degree corners on the racetrack, and they exist at the start and the end. They're so easy to get wrong. You ruin Hell Corner, you ruin your entire lap. Thomas O'Leary, he's navigated that treachery in the rest of the racetrack. Just got 2 corners remaining. The chase, some drivers opt to use a lot of the curb on the inside, other drivers opt to drive around it and meet the apex that way. O'Leary used a lot of the curb, bounced up and over it, and into Murray's Corner. Get it slowed down, get it turned. Do not touch the curb there. Avoid the grass on the outside. Get the power down nice and smooth across the line. 2:05.5 goes third fastest.
Not bad at all from Thomas O'Leary to get within that amount of time to Cam Dance, who is still out on track and still setting times. We'll see what he can do on this run. But Dance will obviously have been watching those times, and he knows that no one is within 4/10 of him so far. But he still wants to be out there and hopefully improving on his time. That's going to be difficult, though, because the sun will be heating up this track quite a bit. Stevens across the line again. That's a 2:07 for him. So that's not going to be an improvement on his time. Will Leslie then. We're about to see the first proper time and vaulting over the curb at the chase, flashing the lights as well. Maybe he knows we're watching him. Oh, yeah. There we go.
He's in 4th gear coming to pit lane.
Okay. So, that flashing lights was obviously a warning. I'm coming into pit lane, guys. Just take care if you're out there on track with me.
Dwayne Burns. He's in 3rd gear. This is a bit quicker. Remember, he had a 3-minute previous lap. It was most certainly an outlap. Into Murray's Corner. He's quite ginger in the braking zone, but he gets the power down quite quickly. You have to if you're beginning a lap. A 6.7 goes to 8th. So he puts himself on the 4th row of the grid at least for now. Everyone has set times in this top 10 shootout. Ignore that.
Yeah.
Doofus.
Yeah, that guy at the bottom, don't pay attention to him. He was an idiot and accidentally joined the server as a driver, not as a spectator. So we'll just gloss over that. Matt Danson coming across the line again, and that's going to be a start of a lap for Mr. Danson. It's been a while since we've seen Danson make an appearance in this series. He's missed a few rounds, but certainly shown that he had what it takes to fight for the title in the oval rounds, and also on the road rounds to an extent as well. Obviously, this is not Matt Danson's main kind of racing, but he always puts in the hard yards and always seems to be there on terms of pace.
Matt's been working away at this for a little while now. He tried to do the official 1000 a couple of weeks ago. He's been spending a lot of time at the mountain in this car for a combination he's not renowned for. Recently hit 7,000 I rating over on oval. That is understeer. That might be a hint of his inexperience in this one. He got understeer, and his fix for it was dialing in more steering angle.
Yeah, I think that front end is not quite where Danson wants it to be, because we did see just before in the cutting he locked up and went wide. So this is not going to be a competitive time from Matt Danson. Looks like he's just trying to take it as easy as he can through the S's and still putting the power down. I mean, look, the words come out of my mouth, and as that's happening, he goes and defies me. That is not my fault. Modem simulation replay. Let's have a look at what happened to Danson across the top here. And check out the wheel work down the hill as well. 4th gear, then down into 3rd, bouncing off the rev limiter in 2nd, and Yeah, that car is looking very wayward. Out of the dipper, just a bit too much throttle, and then away he goes. Winds on 90
control.
degrees. Yeah, very good control, indeed.
If that's his tactic to go faster, he's going to want to remedy it, because in the race, he will have so much tyre wear. He will be falling like a rock in the ocean when we get towards the end of our stint. Going to have to pit, of course. I think, what are we expecting? 2, maybe 3 times to get home at the end in this 81-lap race. 28 cars. So this is just qualifying for the 10 fastest from our qualifying sessions over the course of the week. So make sure you stay tuned. We don't have a 10-car race. Don't worry. There are plenty more ready to tackle the mountain in a few minutes' time. Come through the last corner, running a throwback or replica livery to the well-renowned Autobahn machine. Craig Lowndes ran that quite recently. In fact, I'm sure back in your day race it was run as well.
Yes, indeed. And unfortunately, no improvement for Jonathan Bain on that particular time, but he's still running 7th at the moment, which is pretty good, well into the top 10. Thomas O'Leary currently sitting P3. He's got 0.5 of a second to make up if he wants to nab pole. And of course, Will Leslie, the Kinetic Casual car fighting dance for the championship, is still down in 10th place, has not set a competitive time yet, has Will. But Thomas, down to Murray's Corner, going quite slow here. This is going to be the start of a lap for him for one more run, and I think that's going to be his last chance in this session. Only 3 minutes 40 seconds to go. You're going to get a maximum of 1 lap in before the session ends.
Shane Bowen dials on the lob. Murray's Corner gasses it up for another attempt. Maybe he'll get 2 in. That was a decent effort. He goes back to 8th. Pretty close. There's 0.4 of a second between Danson at the top. Only a 10th back to O'Leary then, between 2nd and 3rd. Stadler's all by himself in 4th. And then a 10th of a second covering Stevens, Taylor, and Jonathan Bain. Make it 2/10 if you include Shane Bowen as well. Dwayne Burns only 2/10 away from him. Will Leslie trying to buy into the picture as well. Still yet to put down a representative lap time, really.
Yeah, that's it. Well, out of the final corner he goes. And what kind of time is this? It's a 2:08.451. That's still quite a ways off where he needs to be.
He's struggling a little bit. Let me go hunt down his qualifying time from...
We're hearing that...
that's why.
Yeah, we've just heard from our director, Will Leslie is literally racing from Bathurst. So I think that explains a few things.
At a mate's house, Eric Thorpe, who's raced in this series before. In fact, I ran into him at Daytona 500, literally, in a majors race before. Harold Stadler in 4th will stay 4th with that attempt. So Leslie will probably improve over the course of the race as he gets acclimatized to his new surroundings.
Well, it's quite a race that we've got coming up here, so Leslie has plenty of opportunities to work his way forward indeed. I noticed he's just hit the wall up at the top of the mountain, so I don't think that's going to be a representative time. Can O'Leary improve on P3? 2:05.5 was his time, and it's a 2:08.6 on that particular run, and started it while the clock's still running, so he has a chance to complete this one. Can Daniel Stevens improve on P5? Well, he's got 0.4 to make up versus Harold Stadler if he wants to advance forward. Nice and smooth through Murray's Corner. And what of Daniel across the line? 2:07.318, a second off his quickest time. So the clock is starting to run out for these drivers. And alluding to the point I was making before, yeah, that was quite the oversteer on the exit of Hell Corner for Stevens. And that works into what I wanted to say, because the track is 48 degrees Celsius and the skies are clear. That means that the track is just going to continue heating up. And the longer the session goes on, the less likely it is you're actually going to improve on your time.
Compared to what they did in Q1 and Q2, they all did 2:05s, including Leslie. The only people that didn't were Danton and O'Leary, who actually popped into the 2:04s So all of them are down on what they did midweek, most likely due to this astronomical track temp, which would be burning through the rubber and causing a lot of oversteer for these guys. Like we saw from Stevens exiting Hell Corner. Here's Harold Sadler. Can he make it to the line to have another crack before this session wraps? 8, 7, 6 seconds left through Murray's Corner. Gets it turned. Gets the power down. He's going to have another crack at it. But that lap for him is a 2:05.891. It's his fastest of the session so far. But he remains where he was in 4th. He's not going to go on and complete that next lap. Here's Thomas O'Leary in 3rd. Can he buy a ticket to the front row?
We'll have to wait and see. Matt Danson has gotten closer to Cameron Dance as we were talking. Meanwhile, he's now within a 10th and he is on a lap. So Matt Danson could take a surprise pole here, but we focus on O'Leary for now, and he's backed off and goes on into the pits. So now we've got to think about Matt Danson,
Daniel Stevens.
Cameron Dance. Stevens is not going to finish this one. He hit the wall up the top of the hill.
Cameron Dance, Dwayne Burns, Danson are on the lap, are on the track as well, on a lap. There is Stevens pulling off, as you correctly anticipated. Dance.
Very slow.
Yeah. Slower than normal. Dwayne Burns out of Forest Over using all of the racetrack. That's a piece of the fence that is so often talked about when you come racing at this gargantuan of a racetrack. It looks like a fast one from Burns. He's got his foot to the floor. 286 kilometers an hour as he tips it through the kink.
Danson's backed off. We're not going to see a quicker time from him, so it's all down to the number 19 then. Can Dwayne Burns advance forward into the top 10? Currently sitting on a 206.757. He has to get 2/10 to pip his teammate. But a little bit slidey out of Murray's, and that's a 206.778 for him. 0.02 off his fastest time. So it looks like that is everyone done then. Your pole sitter for the Majors Bathurst 500 in the international region is going to be Cameron Dance, with Matt Danson lining up alongside him. O'Leary and Stadler on row 2, with Stevens and Taylor behind them. Ben and Bowen, 7th and 8th, with Dwayne Burns and championship leader Will Leslie rounding out the top 10. So that brings to an end proceedings, not for tonight, but for the shootout session. We're going to go on a very quick break here at SimSpeed TV while the race server gets set up, and we'll be back with a 20-plus car grid, 80 laps around Bathurst. Make sure that you stay here with us on the iRacing Esports Network. We're SimSpeed TV. You're watching the Majors.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up the
Oh
wall.
my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh, no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh, my God.
God, what?
You're watching the International Division of the Majors series here on the iRacing Esports Network with ourselves, SimSpeed TV. This round, the penultimate of the season, is supporting Mission Australia, charity that helps out the homeless here in Australia. Make sure that you give them your support, and a big thanks to them for coming on board for this round. Also, a big thanks to Majors Garage, of course, a place where you can find track guides and setups and from some of the fastest drivers in this series. I know that Cameron Dance has contributed a fair amount of setups and analysis to that platform. Make sure you hop on there as well. We've finished the shootout session, and Cameron Dance has secured pole for the Bathurst 500, but we're going to take a bit of a bigger look at the whole season to starting off with the pro drivers standings. Well, Will Leslie, 131 points ahead of Dance, but we got to remember Will is starting at the back of the top 10 in this one. So 131 point gap. Well, he's going to have to advance quite a way forward if he wants to keep this championship fight going to the final round. Cameron Dance will be hoping for the same. Harold Stadler as well, down there in third place, and with the win in the Lotus 49 at Watkins Glen, he has managed to bring himself 142 points ahead of Daniel Stevens, and that is going to be for the lead in the Legends standings. The likes of Shane Bowen and Dwayne Burns for Avatar, meanwhile, Ryan, they have stayed in the top 10 pretty much all season. I'd say that outside of the Kinetic squad and the TechSense FitSty squads, I reckon Avatar is perhaps one of the best represented teams in this series. Very, very close with MF Racing.
Yeah, I think those four teams in general are the ones we see week in, or round in, round out, in Majors competition. And going to be interesting to see how their fights pan out over the rest of today and next round as well to finish off the season. Those teams fights. I think you look at our sportsman standings though. Stephen Williams and Gavin Barber. That's a fight we've got to keep an eye on. Neither of them were in Q3, but the sportsman drivers will be in our split here. So we'll have 28 cars combined from pro and sportsman, and they are battling it out for a championship of their own. Pretty close between Phil Otto, Martin Houston as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite the interesting fight as you go down through those standings, and obviously Stephen Williams and Gavin Barber will be wanting to sort that out very shortly. But the battle between Otto, Houston, and Andrews, so you could include Bradley Matheson in that one as well. That is quite the fight that we're going to see. Moving on to the Legends Championship standings. Well, I mentioned that Stadler and Stevens, the top two there, and it looks like an almost unassailable lead here for Harold Stadler. Qualified ahead of Stevens for this round, so that fight is going to continue as well.
Yeah, indeed it is. Good to see all three of our Drivers' Championships going right down to the wire here, because at the mountain, it is going to throw everything at you, and even 140 points and 131 points in pro is not comfortable at all for Stadler and for Leslie as well. So definitely keep an eye on all of those margins today. In terms of teams, well, it's a little bit more comfortable. In the Elite Championship, Kinetic have a 400-point buffer over MF Racing Pro. And then it starts to become a bit elongated. It's 1,900 points back to TechSense FitSty in third.
Yeah, and that, of course, is the team that Harold Stadler and Cameron Dance are a part of, and they have largely been the only two Fitstye cars that have made appearances across the season. Simon Mazzomo has popped in a couple of times, won the round at Le Mans, so made a great contribution to Fitstye Motorsports' tally there. But yeah, honestly, Kinetic International, they've been the star team in the majors for as long as I can remember. And yeah, that's really an unassailable gap for MF Racing. There's no way that can be made up in just 2 rounds unless something drastic happens to Kinetic and none of their drivers score any points. What about the Premier Team Championship standings? These are for the drivers competing in Sportsman. And, well, we talked about an unassailable gap before, Ryan. Have a look at that. 1,211 points that MF Racing Sports has over their sister team.
That's definitely an unassailable gap. The 400-point one, honestly, I see it as definitely in the realms of possibility. If Kinetic run into issues today, it's likely, it's Bathurst, and MF Racing don't, well, they could definitely cut that at least in half, and then who knows what happens heading into Auto Club to round out our season, so who knows. But yeah, I think MF Sports, MF Casual, they will be finishing first, they'll be finishing second in the Premier Team standings.
Now it's time to take a look at Mount Panorama from the air. Of course, zooming on in to New South Wales. It's not that far from Sydney, is Mount Panorama Circuit. You drive a couple of hours across the Blue Mountains and you are pretty much there. It's at the southern corner of the country town of Bathurst. And right there we see Mount Panorama. There we go. Pops up. It's a little hard to tell where it on the satellite alone, but you know, now that you see it, it's really clear what makes this track what it is.
It's so narrow, you can't see it in amongst the trees and the paddocks and hills of the area. Opened in 1938, or that's when the tourist drive was opened, 6.2 kilometers in length. We're under turn 1, relatively short, 210 meters. And it is the greatest in the country.
We're pretty much required to say that.
Yeah. Matt Danson's not happy with his qualifying effort. I've just been informed.
Oh, yes.
He described as the ultimate choke. So keep an eye on him to potentially try and get by Cameron Dance early on.
Yes, indeed. Well, yeah, I did. I was monitoring Danson on his final run, and up until he hit the wall, he was looking very fast. The race server has gone up, so now it's time for us to load on in and see the lay of the land. The drivers will be loading on in as well.
It's hilly.
Very shortly we'll be going into the race session. It is very hilly, is it not?
Total elevation change at Mount Panorama, about 170 meters, I think, from the bottom of the track down here on Pit Straight up to Skyline. Obviously, you ascend that and descend it in, probably about less than 6.2 kilometers, because the main straight's flat. The first half of Mount Straight's flat.
At least it seems that way.
It seems that way. Jay's told us it's definitely not flat when you walk it. Well,
and I can back him up.
Unfortunately, not all of us have had that privilege.
Well, I have, and I can definitely tell you that rise on Mountain Straight, you are walking uphill all the way to the crest. But in the sim, yeah, it does seem like it's flat. Another way that your perspective can be warped when you're driving in a sim. And that corner there, Skyline coming into the S's across the top of the circuit, there's no room for error up there. And you're reaching quite a high speed. If cars are close, if someone dips a wheel off and spins on lap 1, that's going to be one of the major choke points around this circuit.
Top speed often talked about as being 300 kilometers an hour at Bathurst, but looking at the pace as they headed through the kink there in qualifying, it was 286 for most of them. They're thereabouts. In the draft, you may be getting close to 300. Now, it feels like a bit of the speed might have been trimmed out in favor of potentially some stability through the corners.
Yep, that is likely. And the drivers, especially something like 10 or 15 years ago in real life, would reach 300 kilometers an hour down Conrod Straight in the shootout session. But of course, today's Australian touring cars produce a bit more downforce. They have had a lot more work done on them in the mechanical grip department as well. So, obviously, drivers favouring the grip through the corners, and that's what's helping them. So we should see a couple of drivers touch 300 in the draft if they manage to line it up correctly. Regardless, it's still a very fast circuit here at Mount Panorama, and the track's so narrow in many places that you feel like you're going 300 at most points.
You don't want to be so on the straights because you can't pass anywhere from the cutting back to Forest Elbow unless something goes seriously wrong for the guy or girl in front of you, or you have some steel parts on you. So, you know, you've got to make sure you're trimmed out. When you head down Conrod, you've got to be fast enough to suck up to the guy in front of you, pull left, and dive up the inside of the chase. Other opportunities are obviously down at Murray's Corner, Hell Corner, Turn 1, and Mountain Straight as well. You can get up the inside at Griffin's Bend, recently renamed as Penrite Pass. And then you want to sort yourselves out before we head to the cutting, which means lap 1 is dicey because there's generally always still side-by-side action coming out of Turn 2 that's got to very quickly evaporate and become single-file action by the time you get there. And there, at the entry of the cutting, has seen some wild moments, one of the most famous accidents in the history of the circuit when drivers tried to go side-by-side.
Absolutely, and demonstrating that corner for us was Jamie McKnight, who is making an appearance here in this round. Mark Newton as well in the MF Racing Casual machine, running a look-alike to one of the famous liquor-centric liveries that we've seen in Australian touring car racing over the years. I do miss that Kelly Racing Jack Daniels livery, and it's quite a nice representation of it on that car. You can always count on MF Racing for great liveries, and look at Gavin Barber's one. That looks familiar.
It does. Please don't make me call it out, though.
Okay. It is
oh, wait, I know. It's Greg Murphy's Castrol livery.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It's not like Jay just told you or anything. But,
damn it, Rex.
It's still an excellent livery, and even with the teams that are not making send-offs of real-life liveries, we're still seeing some fantastic-looking cars here. You saw the Kinetic cars go through there in their dazzling blue, and of course we've got from the V8 Scots series, the DPR racing team, and Stephen Williams, of course, racing for them in that beautiful, slightly off-white, I'd call it a cream livery, and some very nice red accents on that machine as well. You know, I think a lot of people diss white liveries, but I like them. I think white, when used correctly, is a great colour for a race car.
Indeed it is. Certainly on this livery, one that, well, pretty much got banned, didn't it, actually, when sponsorship laws changed. Can no longer be sponsored by certain brands.
Certain companies that make certain things that you can burn and inhale, yes.
Yeah, there you go. Said it much neater than I did. Keep an eye out for Jamie McKnight in this race. Now, he's a bit of a wild card in terms of this, because he is very experienced in this car. Also, Thomas Hinds, another wild card to this race. Now, if memory serves me correctly, which it probably isn't, Riley Blythe showed up last year and tanked the field.
Yeah, pretty close to what happened there, I would imagine. You do have to be careful when you race these Australian touring cars in a one-off or as part of a greater series, because the drivers who drive these things all the time are going to jump on in and show you how it's really done.
It might have been James Scott. You know what? I'm going to go find the broadcast. I can't live without knowing who it was now.
Do your research, Ryan. I'll hold station until you're back. Gavin Barber putting himself, was P7, now pipped to P8 in this warm-up session. So Barber is showing that he can certainly bring it in terms of pace, and that's going to help him in the Sportsman Championship with Stephen Williams. We'll have to wait and see how both of those drivers stack up at the end of this one. I mean, I love the way that car looks going around this circuit. It just looks right. And Thomas Hinz as well in the RA2 livery. Of course, we're getting our paints reset briefly just to make sure that everything is up to date for you, and we can get a good picture of what car every driver's running here. So,
well, yeah, it was James Scott. It was
All right.
definitely James Scott. He won by 55 seconds over Blake Neck in second. McKnight came third in that one, 1:28 off Scott. Dance was fifth, 1:47 off, behind McKnight by about 20 seconds. So keep an eye on that today.
Indeed. Well, we've got plenty to keep our eyes on today because we're in the race session and it's time to go through the full grid. This is the top 10 as arranged by the shootout. It's Danson on the front row with O'Leary and Stadler behind them. Daniel Stevens and Wayne Taylor 5th and 6th with Jonathan Ben and Shane Bowen on row 4. Dwayne Burns and Will Leslie, your championship leader, round out the top 10, right?
The wild cards of McKnight and Hinz will start 11th and 12th. Alex Court and Matthew Clowett are on row 7. Jake Fox and Dean Mole, 15th and 16th. Peter Vostrel and Daniel Misdale, 17th and 18th. Misdale as well, quite quick in a supercar. Marky Newton and Mitchell Bales, your top 20.
A final 15 seconds, then it's Williams and Andrews on row 11 with Aston Hurley and Gavin Barber starting alongside each other. Critchley and Kuzan in 25th and 26th with Troy Allen and Phil Otto rounding out the grid. Very quick gridding period here. We are about to get going. Those are the conditions. 48-degree track temperature, but it's probably going to get higher. The revs rise. Everyone's getting ready to go. The drivers who know what they're doing will be engaging the line locker, and we are away for the Bathurst 500. It's a good start from Cameron Dance. Matt Danson not able to respond. Harold Stadler tried to get back on Thomas O'Leary, but O'Leary remains in third as the field fans out behind them into turn 1. Looks like everyone more or less keeping it on track. No, that is a DPR car off into the wall, and that is Daniel Misdale in the 315, all the way to the back of the grid already, and there's no cautions to save him.
There was a slow start for Daniel Stevens. He bombs it on the line. It cost him, I think, just one spot, but it stacked up quite a few guys behind him. He was quite fortunate not to lose more, and losing time there was Jeremy McKnight, was it? No. Yes, McKnight caught out wide on the outside of turn 2. That is perilous, and that move is perilous as well from Hinz. McKnight now gets up his inside. Steady on, lap 1, boys, of 81.
Oh, there we go. Well, I think Hinz is going to have to yield there to McKnight, and they are through across the top. The reason I went, just before, is because Will Leslie and Jake Fox have both started from the pits. They're way behind everyone else. That's your championship leader, Will Leslie, and his teammate at Cadetic, Jake Fox. Pierre Kuzan already out with some heavy damage. What on earth happened to him? That was at former Griffin's Bend. Kuzan ran wide and got into a spin over the curb. Yeah.
013 collects him. That's Phil Otto. He had nowhere to go. That decision from Leslie is full championship conservation mode. He wants to finish this race and at least collect points. If he gets knocked out early, has to toe, ends up a lap or 2 down, then you know he's not going to get many points at all. But it's a long race. Anything can happen. Here's some side-by-side action for P. Number 6, Shane Bowen flashes in front of Daniel Stevens as they jump into the braking zone. Jonathan Bain behind locks up and has to really back up his entry to avoid running wide through the chase.
Indeed he does. They resume single file running. Thomas Hinz is having a few goes at Dwayne Burns as well, just behind as they complete lap 1. Oh no, Burns has gone wide and Murray's and allowed Hinz through. That looked like either contact or a bit of a lock-up. That's going to give the chance to Matthew Clowett as well to get by on the run into Hell Corner. Clowett tries on Hinz. Burns yields to both of them, but Hinz getting out of the corner a little bit better. So now Burns actually with a great run on Matthew Clowett could pass him back here at Griffin's Bend. He's got the inside line, and if you're on the outside of Griffin's, there's no way you can defend because there's such a big crown in the road. Burns needs to be a bit later on the brakes. Clowett turns in, gives him just enough room and holds on actually around the outside. Looks like you're able to do that on lap 1 without the threat of the marbles. And there goes McKnight gaining an extra position on his recovery, up into 8th.
Clowett was lucky that Hinz didn't turn in on him. through turn 1. He wasn't trying to pass him, I don't think, just trying to get by Dwayne Burns and Hinds there. So good awareness there, not to make contact, but Matt Danson has shut down the margin that Cam Dance built over the first lap. And as we hit lap 2, we head back down the hill, down Skyline, and we roll through the S's. Thomas O'Leary running right with them in third, and Harold Stadler as well. So 4 cars breaking away at the front of the field early on at the mountain.
Yeah, very good job from these guys as well to consolidate that. Slight lock up for Danson coming into Forest Elbow. So that slightly killed his run onto Conrad, but he's got the draft on Cameron Dance. And there's Thomas Hinds once again looking for 9th place now versus Jonathan Bain. And he's got quite the good run out of Forest Elbow now, but a little bit of extra draft probably wouldn't hurt. Just dip back behind Jonathan Bain and get a little bit of extra speed, but it seems like Bain has set up his car really well for straight line running, and he's able to defend from Hinds into the chase. So Thomas is going to have to find another way through. That could come sooner than he thinks, because that's a slightly messed up exit for the chase, and got to be very careful down at Murray's Corner. They've got the 64 for company as well. There he goes, but can Jonathan Bain hold on?
That all started with a pinch left front for Jonathan Bain that checked up Hinds on the exit. It dragged Matthew Clowett into the fight as well. Behind them, Burns and also Alex Court. Still they run wheel to wheel, and still Hinds can't make this move on Jonathan Bain. He's going to be caught on the wrong side of the racetrack, and we head to Penrite Pass. So if I'm Hinds, I'm going to be very careful here, because Matthew Clowett can pick up the spot, or it can come unstuck very quickly. Really commits in the braking zone, chops the entry as much as he can, and that is a sign of the experience Hinsey has as he now squeezes Jonathan Bain out on the entry of the cutting. Gets that move done. That was a great fight.
Yeah, what a move from Hinds. Turned in nice and aggressive, went for the late turn in at Griffins. That requires a lot of faith in how his front end works at this early stage. The tyres won't be fully up to temperature yet. By lap 4, I think they'll be within their operating range. And you have a look at Hinds, he is wasting no time gapping these guys. He wants to move forward ASAP. His next target is Daniel Stevens. Matt Danson's target remains Cameron Dance, the reigning champion. So this top 4 group still together, with Danson right in the draft down Conrad. The issue is, though, when you're this close together at the start of the race, you don't want to go for a banzai move too soon, because Cameron Dance can just as easily slipstream back by. I don't know if Matt Danson is listening to that advice, because he wants to go for it at the chase. Well, has a bit of a look, but ultimately decides to back out of it. You see how much Dance is pushing into that corner. Nearly didn't hook up the apex.
Just a little feather off the throttle for Danson as they headed into the kink, just to give himself the breathing room so he didn't run into the back of Cameron Dance when they flashed onto the brakes. Pierre Cousin, just up ahead of them as well, is looking like he's going to go a lap down early on in this race after his early dramas. How about this fight to Murray's Corner?
Nice.
Triple 8 throwback, getting muscled out as 2 cars go by. One of them minus the bonnet. That's Mark Newton.
Yeah, Mark Newton carrying quite a bit of damage on that machine now, and Alex Court managing to find his way past the 177 of Mitchell Bales as well. But the draft happens once again down the mountain straight, and I mean, looking at Jamie McKnight just up ahead, running in 7th. He's got Shane Bowen just ahead of him. Comparing lap times, well, Jamie McKnight took pretty much 6/10 out of Shane Bowen on the last lap, so you can imagine that McKnight is on for a top 5 here.
Just keeping an eye on when Dance is going to catch Cousin, because if he catches him at an awkward spot, it's going to give a really big opportunity to Danson to make this move early, and as they come through the S's, Cousin's right there in front of him, not holding him up yet.
Oh, take care, guys. Oh, this is an awkward spot. Dance, actually. Oh, no. Oh, bit of contact there. Matt Danson just getting in there, and oh, Pierre locks up. I think he got a bit frightened there by the car's bearing down on him through that narrow section of the circuit. So that could have been slightly cleaner, but at the very least, it looks like no great damage to any of our runners. The big downside, I think, is for Harold Stadler. He's lost quite a bit of time to O'Leary, so now it's the top three that have broken away.
Yeah, that was just awkward. I told you, if it catch him in an awkward spot, there's not much any of them can do. I think he just panics a little bit, trying to get out of the way. As here's Gemma McKnight. Looks like he's just got by Shane Bowen.
So that move has been completed. Pierre just lets other cars go just up ahead and off the circuit at Murray's Corner. McKnight goes very wide to avoid him. Have a look at this down at Murray's Corner meanwhile. It's a proper six-car battle here with Ben, Clote and Burns, but the 233 of Mark Newton trying his best here to get one back on Alex Court on the inside at Hell Corner. Court turns in. Oh, they try to give each other the room, but yes, bump, there we go. And that is the run killed for Mark Newton. Mitchell Bales, though, not electing to take advantage, slots back in behind.
Keep an eye on this. Thomas Hinds, fastest car on the racetrack last time by. He sits right now in 9th, 9 seconds away. If he can get through the traffic quickly enough, he's still got a chance on this one. McKnight as well, sitting in 6th. He's only 6.3 seconds away. And he's only got Wayne Taylor, Harold Stadler in front of him.
Oh.
Hinds has got Stevens right on his bumper. But back here, this is where the action is.
Yeah, certainly looks like it. We're going to get a modem simulation replay of this one. Dean Moll running there with Matt Andrews. And this was quite the move down at the cutting. So Andrews was ahead here of Dean Moll, driving, of course, for TechSense Fitstone Motorsport, as you can see from the logo on the bonnet. Moll actually running wide in Griffins, getting passed by, I think that was Mitchell Bales. But around the outside goes Matt Andrews into the cutting. That's something that you certainly don't see every day.
That is a very, very good move from Matt Andrews. Still they run nose to tail for the lead of the race. How many times have we seen a Bathurst great where they run nose to tail lap after lap, just unable to find that edge to get by because it is such a hard track to actually pass if you haven't got the edge in the right place. You can be strong across 75% of the lap, but if that's up and down and across the mountain, you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. And for Daniel Stevens, he did get the mountain section right, but Thomas Hinds has now gotten past him for 8th place. So Hinsey now there, ahead of Daniel Stevens, made the move into the chase, he did. So now his next target is Shane Bowen, which is not that far up the road. There's Bowen in the back of the picture as Wayne Taylor and Jamie McKnight continue to battle for 5th place. I've got to give props to Wayne Taylor here. He's faced off against a huge amount of pressure from Jamie McKnight over the last 4 or so laps and holding up really nicely. He isn't showing any signs of faltering.
The other aspect that'll come into play in about 10, 15 laps time is 20 laps rather, 15, 20, is the pit window and the fuel window opening up. I think from memory it's about 22, 23 laps, isn't it? Which would mean a 3-stop race to get there. No safety car interventions. There's no automatic cautions in our racing. We're not throwing any manual cautions either, so drivers can meticulously plan their pit stop strategy.
Yeah, absolutely can. And yes, the figure that our good mate Lockie Mansell gave us at the Scops Bathurst 1000 was 23 to 24 laps to a tank. You can maybe squeeze 25 out of it if you fuel save. And depending on when drivers pit, they might have to do a bit of fuel saving, because if you get into an incident, as McKnight goes for it on Taylor down at the chase, oh, is he going to pull it up? Yes, he does, and just slots in ahead of Taylor. Good job to Wayne Taylor as well, giving Jamie McKnight the space. That was a great fight between the two of them. But when you say meticulously plan out, Ryan, it basically means they have to pit on a certain lap, otherwise they're going to be out of strategy. They're going to have to do a splash and dash or fuel save to the end if they pit just one lap too early.
Modem simulation replay of Alex Court getting some decent straight line speed out of his car. JP Sim Shed Machine carries it around the outside and into the braking zone. That pulls up quite nicely for him, and he takes 12th spot away from Jonathan Bain in that exchange. Danson's lost a little edge at the moment, and Dance has now got 3/4 of a second over him. So I wonder if Danson's overworked his tyres a little bit, being right in the wake of the race leader.
It's a possibility. I mean, Cameron Dance's last lap time was a 2:07.102. Matt Danson a 2:07.559. So Cameron is the one with the edge right now, and have a look at how aggressive Danson is over the curbs at McPhillamy. You don't want to be doing that too much, otherwise the car can easily snap on you. You see right there, even on the exit from the dipper, yeah, he went a bit wide, but you could see Cameron Dance putting the power down beautifully out of there, nice and smooth. Of course, when you're chasing another car around this place, it is very easy to overdrive because, you know, you're out there on your own. It's just you and the track, and you can plan and make sure that you hit all of your marks correctly. If you're in a battle like this, well, all you've got to go on is the car in front of you, and if they're a few tenths faster a lap than you are, it's going to be hard to try and make up that time without making a mistake.
Let's go on board with Thomas O'Leary, and let's see what we can learn, because this is what you do. When you're sat behind someone, you learn where the car in front has its strengths and its weaknesses. That's not a great angle. There we go. We can look at the back of Matt Danson's car as it flies over the inside curb. So I spied down the mountain. He ran wide at the dipper. He missed the apex of Forest Elbow, and he's moved the car over about 1/4 of a car length to the inside for Hell Corner. Maybe just trying to slightly cover off any potential thought O'Leary might have had of having a look up the inside. And Danson was very good through there that time around Hell Corner, over the crest. Car gets light, and then into the braking zone. Do they all meet the apex? Looks like O'Leary, bit of understeer. Looks like Danson's struggling for a bit of oversteer.
Yeah, just a little. So when these tyres overheat, the car becomes a right mess to drive.
Yeah, there, you can see the snap on the exit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's in those uphill corners like the cutting that it's happening as well, because, you know, you go up a hill and obviously the tyres are all loaded up, which means that there's going to be a bit more heat generated from them. Modem simulation replay, because that looks like a big problem for Gavin Barber down at the chase. Very heavy damage. So let's see what happened to him. He was already carrying quite a bit of damage on his front left, and it's a real shame for Barber, because of course he's one of the drivers in contention for the Sportsman standings. So what happened to him down at the chase? Well, he made the corner all right, but oh, there we go, on the upshift, actually. On the upshift, the engine popped.
Existing damage, I think, ultimately the culprit at that.
Yeah, you get some damage to the front of the car. It restricts the air coming into the engine, overheat, and then one missed downshift and away it goes.
292 with the double toe heading into the kink for Thomas O'Leary. So the top speed's getting up there. Looking at lap times, who's the fastest? Last lap. In fact, I'll wait 20 seconds for them to cross the line. I'm looking at Hinsey. He was fastest again out of them all on the previous lap. He's just coming up behind Wayne Taylor, so he might be slightly slower this time. A 7.2 for him. Taylor an 8.3. A 7.0 for McKnight. 7.7 for Stadler. 7.3 for O'Leary. 7.2 for Danson. 7.5 for Dance. So McKnight and Hins are motoring along.
And that will be crucial coming into, I think, maybe the second or third stint. They can definitely stand a chance of undercutting their rivals by a lap. Oh, yeah, that was quite.
He was going to go for that, and then he spied the car down there on the inside, and he couldn't do it.
Oh,
No,
Will it be
no, Hinsey, no.
No. Oh, Wayne Taylor gives him the space.
Oh, man. He is
Okay.
so lucky that Wayne Taylor was complicit in that.
Well, that's another position for Thomas Hinds, one of the fastest cars on track at the moment. Jamie McKnight is starting to creep up to the back of Harold Stadler as well, mind. It was a 2:07.0 for McKnight as he crossed the line on that last lap, and as you said, a 2:07.7 for Stadler. So that position is going to be in contention pretty shortly, and this top three battle is spaced out a bit. Danson staying within half a second of Cameron Dance, but once again, feels like he's showing shades of wanting to make a move, but he's never quite in the right position to get it done.
Probably 2 car lengths too far back this time. If he really wants to get by, he just needs to nail the exit from Forest Elbow and commit down the inside of the chase. Don't shape for it and then back out of it awkwardly, because that's more likely to have an incident than actually just going for it, because then Dance will see him and probably sidestep.
Yeah.
This early on, there's not much point for Dance to fight Danson if Dance tries to slip up the inside.
Yeah, I mean, we always talk about buying a ticket to the end, and that's no more true than it is at Bathurst. Big oversteer moment there, mid-corner for Matt Danson. They still hold station there at the front of the field, and Jamie McKnight is almost bumper to bumper with Harold Stadler now for P4.
Whoa.
Stadler's actually lifted off, and McKnight is going to mosey on through across the top of the hill on Mountain Straight.
He almost got caught out by that, Jamie McKnight. Had to quickly flicker right down the straight to get by Stadler. Yeah, he was a second quicker than him on the previous lap, so no surprise to see Stadler just let him go. If we look a little bit further down the order, we see that fight happening for what is P9. Daniel Stevens has got Cloet, and Alex caught up his bumper. Dwayne Burns and Mark Newton a few car lengths back, battling away between themselves as well. Up the hill we go. That is Stevens, and that is Cloet, almost pushing him under the tree up towards Solomon Reed Park and then McPhillamy.
Oh, Stevens a little bit wide there, up at Metal Grey. A little bit of an advantage to Cloet, but there's no space for him to make a move. So his proper chance is going to be down Conrod Straight. Slight lock-up for Cloet coming into the S's, but he manages to pull it up for the Dipper. Very close three-way fight between these two, and then we've got a battle of two, Dwayne Burns and Mark Newton behind these guys. So it's all going on here in the midfield. Out of the Forest Elbow they go, fighting a little bit of oversteer with Stevens and Cloet. And, well, this is quite the gap that Matthew Cloet can use, not to mention Alex caught behind him. So what's going to happen to Daniel Stevens down at the end of this straight? He's gone defensive right in the middle of the road. He's not letting them through. Oh, Matthew Cloet almost having to take to the grass there, but Stevens gave him all the space that was required and not an inch more. What about Murray's Corner then? Slightly worse exit for Stevens. Cloet's going to try and get through on the inside. No, Stevens is protecting. He's going to stay middle of the road, even to the inside a bit, coming down to Murray's Corner. And I think Cloet getting very frustrated here, but a big throttle application. Stevens went a bit too deep into Murray's, and that is going to be moved up.
Could have seen that coming from Stevens. Defending the inside like that, your exit's always going to be compromised. Definitely playing for keeps. Maybe a bit too much this early on, and with that compromised exit, the final corner, being caught on the outside for the first corner, it's allowed Alex Court up and around his outside for turn 2, and Court quickly wises up to the improbability of that working out, and still ends up nabbing the tyre bundle on the left.
Just ran a bit too wide, went over the crown and the road. At that point, the wheels had no more grip, so now Court has to fall in line behind Mark Newton there. Meanwhile, we check back in with the leaders. Dance and Danson have now formed their own little group. They're starting to leave Thomas O'Leary behind.
The lap time suddenly plummeted. 6.7 for Dance, 6.9 for Danson, 6.5 for Hinds.
Well, Okay, so Jay is telling us that the wind has changed direction. It's now heading east. And the track temperature has also dropped by 1 degree. So
where's the tailwind then? Is it down Conrad if it's pushing east, or is it?
No, if it's pushing east, or if it's coming, yeah, if it's going east, then it would be a headwind down the front straight. No, yeah, tailwind down the front straight because it's an easterly wind. That means that there's a bit of a side wind down Conrod and Mountain Straight.
That would make the car a little bit unstable, I think, heading through the kink, getting onto the braking zone.
It would. But the drivers will probably sense those little micro movements and take measures to negate them. That's another fastest lap for Thomas Hins. We're now down into the 2:06.5s. And Danson is closer than he's ever been. He has a look at Cameron Dance, but not far up enough to make the move work. Sticks it to the inside through Griffin's Bend, but that is not going to be a move for Matt Danson. Jamie McKnight still advancing forward, and it looks like he and Hins are about to come together if they keep this up.
Here we go.
Ooh.
Alex caught. Daniel Stevens covering off is caught. He's got by Stevens. And Stevens loops it on the exit, gets collected from behind. That was Dwayne Burns that got into him.
It's a big shame for those guys. Everyone else has managed to continue on, but that's going to be a very unhappy Daniel Stevens. He's just managed to get going again. It doesn't look like he's carrying too much damage on the car, but he'll still be wanting that to be fixed. And you do get a chance in the majors for that. Everyone has a spare car to jump into if their one they're currently running gets totaled. But you've got to be careful about when you use your spare car. You want to try and last as long as you can. The draft up at the front continues to be a great boon for Matt Danson. Oh, yeah, we
Braking
almost
zone
went.
For Cameron Dance seems to be much shorter than it is for Danson. I thought Danson's worried of locking up and hitting the side of Dance because every time he gets to run, pulls to the inside, he brakes earlier than Dance. That's not how you outbrake someone. You gotta brake later than him.
It's all about, I think, the transfer of weight as you come out of the kink. So we were on board with Mitchell Bales. You see how out to the middle and then there's more weight transfer as you move back over to the right. That can really make the car unstable under brakes, especially in these things. They have a locked rear, so both rear wheels spin at the same time under acceleration. You lock up one rear wheel and both of them go. So that's another one of the things that the drivers need to keep track of out here.
2008, 2009, 2010, maybe 2011. Throwback there for the car at the bottom of the shot, driven by Mitchell Bales. And then on board with Ashton Hurley, who has a throwback to one of the Penrite Erebus cars of 2018, which in itself was the throwback itself.
Indeed. That's a problem for Daniel Stevens, which I was about to draw your attention to. He's elected to come into the pits, but unfortunately had an incident on pit entry. Have a look at this, guys. This is the pit entry at Mount Panorama, and it is pretty much a racetrack in and of itself. You push in there too hard, you get into the grass, and Daniel Stevens boxed in there, had to flick it in reverse and get it back in the pits that way. So that's about 10 or 15 seconds extra time that he's lost out of that.
It's just, you can't push too hard. You cannot afford to overdrive the entry to pit lane here at Mount Panorama. Now, what Danson's probably doing down these straights, saving a bit of time. A bit of fuel, rather, while not losing any time.
Indeed. He's gone real hard into the chase at that point, though. Miracle that he pulled it up, I think. But I think that is a clue to his fuel saving. You lift and coast a bit in the braking zone. You can afford to brake a little bit later. As we take a look at this midfield battle here, coming down Conrod, headed up by Jonathan Bean. And there is a move potentially for Mitchell Bales. Tried one on Dwayne Burns. Is he going to do one in the braking zone? Nah, jumps on the brakes, and you don't want to lift off the stop pedal at that point, because otherwise you're just going to sail on past the apex. So well timed there for Mitchell Bales, but all of these guys, it seems like a powder keg ready to explode.
It's a lot of cars grouped together still. They've been together since lap 1 of this race. Matt Andrews in 17th for the last of the cars in this group. All the way up to probably Jonathan Bain in 12th. Alex Court is starting to drive away from them. Which is good news for him, obviously. McKnight's not got that much pace. He's there or thereabouts with the leaders. But Thomas Hinz is quickest by a mile. Near fastest lap previous time around. And he's about to reel in McKnight very quickly.
Yeah,
how the gap closes down the hill.
Hinz is incredibly confident on the brakes, isn't he? You saw the way that gap closed up, and that's a part of the circuit where you really have to be careful with your braking. So Hinzy seems quite confident in that machine, and a nice straight exit out of Forest Elbow as well. Within draft range of Jamie McKnight, is this going to be the move for 4th place? They've got hill to go, and then up over the crest. Look at the run that Hinzy has. That is how much the draft is worth, but he's not going to be able to get it done into the chase, I think, unless he's super aggressive. Yeah, he is super aggressive. He's going to get it done. McKnight yields, and Hinzy slips on through into a top 4 position.
McKnight actually pops up over the radio to let Hinzy go through.
Right.
Told him to take the inside at the chase because they are both so experienced and they both knew Hinzy is quicker. There's no point holding each other up. And that's the perfect place to do it if you're McKnight. You don't lose any time yourself, as that is a bold move from Mitchell Bales. Around the outside of the King, inside for the chase. Gets by Dwayne Burns and sticks it.
Good job there from Mitchell. Now up into lucky 13th. So another car in the pits. Yeah, that's Mark Newton, who's elected to go for, I would assume, some repairs at the very least. Not quite due in for fuel for another 7 or 8 laps. Cameron Danson, Nat Danson, meanwhile, it's the same old story up at the front of the field. 206.7 from Danson, 206.8 from Danson. So good response from the reigning champion. But once again, you only feel it's a matter of time, and they'll all be waiting for the pit cycle too, because great differences can be made there.
If Danson's saving fuel, which he should be in the drafted Dance, then his pit stop should be quicker in theory. It will take less time to fill the car to full, and tyres are done well before the tank completely fills up anyway. So tyres aren't a factor, so fuel very much is a factor in the length of your pit stop. But it might enable him to go an extra lap, and with clean air, he may feel he could overcut Dance, but don't forget, if Dance does pit a lap before Danson, he'll have fresh tyres, and well, just as likely he could undercut Danson. So definitely an interesting story to play out with this first round of pit stops. In about 6 or 7 laps, we suspect, as we jump back in the pack and right on board with Daniel Misdale. As Dwayne Burns ahead of him, and Misdale's lit up the rears, trying to get out of Forest Elbow with a good run. Instead, he's going to have a terrible exit. Might be under pressure from the jumper behind Ashton Hurley. Is he particularly close to him? You get a shot out the back of that car. No, he's not under pressure, so into the chase. There'll be no moves this time by. But Burns definitely starting to struggle, I think. Again, you can't say definitely and then back it up with a maybe and a think race. Who's not back yet? Okay, Hinz and McKnight. Hinz got by and has not pulled away too much over McKnight. McKnight sticking with him. They both did a 7-0, 7-1 on the last lap. I hear the sound of a door going slam. And it sounds like Reese Gardner returning to the virtual comms box.
My apologies.
It's all good. All you missed was me contradicting myself. I said, I definitely think that Dwayne Burns is losing time here.
Ah, yes.
So the consensus is that he's probably not losing time. You know how it goes.
That makes complete sense there. Well, into the cutting they go, and tell you what, Daniel Misdale is looking quite aggressive behind Dwayne, coming up out of the cutting. So that might be a potential move very soon. And as I say that, Misdale backs off into these corners coming across the top of the mountain. Either way, it's going to be a tight battle, no matter where you are in this field. So McKnight and Hinds, they're running line. They're running not really line astern, but together on track. And the next car that they've got is lapped car Daniel Stevens, who's now down in 26th position. It's quite the gap to Thomas O'Leary up ahead, as this could be the chance that Misdale needs right in the draft of Dwayne Burns down Conrod Straight. And keeping that momentum up, flips on over to driver's right, and he's going to have the inside for the kink, but Dwayne Burns could keep it down here under brakes at the chase. No, he's not. He's dipped a wheel into the grass. Careful, Dwayne. Oh, no, he's gone a bit too deep. Taps
Whoop.
Misdale. Off they go. And
Whoop.
oh, that's another tap.
Whoop.
Misdale gave back to Burns. Around he goes.
Doink.
And Aston Hurley having to take massive avoiding action there.
Should I start taking up sound effect?
No. Jay says no, I say no. So, that was the way that sorted itself out. Dwayne Burns is going to be an unhappy camper at the moment. Modem simulation replay of what went on there.
So yeah, two on the grass. Because he grabbed the grass, he had to brake later, didn't he, Reese? And that meant he just drifted into the side of the DPR car, and eventually he got the serve returned back at him.
Indeed he did, but it's an interesting set of corners, the chase. When you run off like that and you come back onto the circuit, well, you've lost all the grip from your tyres. You're on the grass. There's nothing you can do to keep yourself out of the nose of another car. I see that fastest lap that's just come up. What on earth has got into Mark Newton here? He's gotten a fresh car, obviously.
Yeah, that is a wow. So 2:06.0. That's 4/10 quicker than what Thomas Hinds had managed. Mark Newton. Who knew he had that sort of pace in him? He's currently scored 23rd, started 19th.
Indeed. I did note in the practice session he was running some pretty competitive times, running low 2:06s on race trim. So, looks like it might be a good night. And we're going to take another look at this entry to the chase from Cam Dance, because as he goes over the kink, he clobbers the curb, and you almost had all four wheels off the ground there. That would have been a big unsettling in the car. But keeping it together at those high speeds shows you how much the car goes through in a single lap around here. You can even see it on the bumps in the road down the mountain straight. This circuit is many things, but smooth is not one of them.
Undulating, bumpy, demanding, grueling, revering, take your pick, anything except smooth. Jonathan Bain has got Mitchell Bales for close company, and Bales just fills that left mirror into turn one. Nothing comes of it there. Bain actually gets through Hell Quarter very nicely and pulls the gap, so Bales suddenly not in position to pull a move when we get down or up to Penrite Pass, Griffin's Bend.
Oh, well, it might be, because Jonathan Bean has just lifted off and let Mitchell Bales go through.
Oh, well, that doesn't count. He lifted.
Of course. Lifted on the entry into Griffin's, but that's another move for Mitchell, and he'll continue trying to advance on forward. He's now up into 11th place. So these guys will be coming up to their pit window very soon. A bit of a compromised exit there from Matt Danson as well. Looked like he just went a bit too deep into Forest Elbow and had to square off the exit of the corner to keep it out of the wall.
Still, these top three refuse to separate. 1.5 seconds covering them. And yeah, Dance got a little bit close to that fence, but none of them are perfect right now. They're all making tiny mistakes here and there, and it's helping to keep them glued together. So Dance gets too close to the wall through the exit of Forest Elbow. Cameron Dance takes too much of the curb through the chase, and the gap comes back to just under half a second, and Dance overdrives the entry to Murray's corner, compromises his exit. Does Dance respond by making a mistake at Hell Corner? Oh, he gets through there quite nicely. But definitely Thomas O'Leary is an interesting one here because he's not got up there and challenged either of these two, with the exception of the couple of laps he was right on the back of Danson. But he's certainly shown some very quick pace. His last lap was 4 tenths quicker than both of them. So I do wonder how much fuel he's saving back there in the double toe and whether he's holding back. Second fastest throughout the week in Q1 and Q2.
Yeah, certainly think Thomas O'Leary is in the box seat for a win if he can time that correctly. And I mean, in a situation like this, you got the two leaders in front of you who are really concerned with themselves. You've got no one behind you for quite some time. You might as well stick with them and lift off a bit earlier in the braking zones. It's all benefits, and even if it doesn't make a huge difference to when you pit, it will make a difference to the amount of time you stopped.
Certainly. What's the fuel flow on these cars? You know, Reese, off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I think it's something in the vicinity of 3 to 4 litres a lap. Is that right, Jay? 3.7. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Reese.
Right.
At least Jay got it. So 3.75 litres a second. That's the number I was looking for.
Okay, right.
So
you're not looking for fuel usage per lap.
Nah. So if Danson saves 3.75 litres, he's going to be a second quicker than Danson pit lane, because he's going to have 3.75 litres less to put back in the tank.
Correct.
The gap is 4 tenths. You do the math. This is why saving fuel is so important. And it adds up over 3 pit stops.
Yeah, the drivers have got a real hard slog ahead of them here, because the Bathurst 1000, 161 laps, you're required to have a co-driver for that one, and you swap places throughout the race. But this is a solo event. You're going to be driving half the distance of a Bathurst 1000 all in one go by yourself.
Yeah, well, we haven't talked about that, have we?
Yeah, it's a bit of a tall order.
The fatigue level, the exertion these guys put out, especially guys like Daniel Stevens, who we've seen usually has the force feedback cranked to maximum, it seems like, the way he wrestles it around when we see him on our Zoom cam. So definitely could be something to play a factor in the late phase of the race.
That looks like a mistake. Was a mistake. Yeah, righto. So the gap has increased there at the front, and O'Leary within half a second of Danson now. So something happened, I think, probably in the vicinity of the cutting. I'm going to go back and check to see if it was any particularly egregious kind of move. Looks to me like it's just happened over the course of the lap. Danson didn't start the lap well. He ran wide out of Hell Corner. Through the cutting, it seemed pretty clean, and then through the cutting and up through Reed and Sulman, it just looks like he just wasn't going as fast. Might have clipped a couple of apex walls here and there as well.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to get it wrong and to lose that time. Gonna go for another lap. So what did we eyeball it earlier on? It's 22 laps the fuel window would be. Thereabouts.
Yep.
We've seen a few guys in pit lane already, but they had damage and wanted to take a spare car, because you go faster with a spare car as opposed to a damaged one, as proven by Mark Newton's purple lap.
Yes, indeed. And that's Alex Cork getting by Shane Bowen coming into the chase. No pitting from them. The track is now 3 degrees cooler than it was at the race start. Remember, this race starting in the mid-afternoon. It's coming up to 2:30 p.m. in sim time. So the track is only going to get cooler as the afternoon wears on, and that could potentially result in some very quick lap times towards the end. I'm just thinking, oh, there's another pitter. Mr. Mole bringing it in the 31. Only car on pit lane at the moment. So now that the leaders are on their 21st lap, we should expect a couple of them to jump on in, maybe get an early stop out of the way, get a one-lap undercut on their rivals, and hope that they have enough fuel in the tank to stretch the stint an extra lap later on. We shall see. Out comes Dance.
We've been talking about Danson saving fuel. It's not like it's going to be a comparison in the pit stop time between Danson saving fuel and Dance going a hell for leather. Dance is saving fuel as well. You'd think. It's just harder for him when he hasn't got a car in front of him punching a hole in the air, allowing his car to work a little easier to get up to full speed, not having to, punch the hole in the air, which inherently slows the car down. And you can also get out of the throttle a little bit and let the draft work its magic and gain speed that way. All three of them going to go for another lap. Thomas Hinton's in fourth, who's still catching them bit by bit. Jamie McKnight picks from fifth.
Right, so going for the lap 21 fill is Mr. McKnight. What about Harold Stadler? He's going to follow him in. Daniel Stevens staying out because, of course, he's had a trip through the pits himself just before. Doesn't look like there's any other takers in the top 10. What about Mitchell Bales coming up across the crest now? No sign of going towards the pits. Jonathan Bain, on the other hand, elects to go for it. So does Daniel Misdale. So seeing some diverging strategies here from drivers, which is interesting to see. And there we go, another diverging strategy. In goes Dwayne Burns and outstays Stephen Williams.
Over a 3-stop race, there's definitely bits you can do. You can't go too wild with your divergence because, well, you need to make sure you make it to the end on at least 3 stops. You can't make it 2 stops. There's no point trying to do that.
Yeah.
And doing 4 stops is just a bad idea, especially when you know there's not going to be a safety car. So it's really a case of extending or reducing some of your stints to a point where you think, okay, if I have a short middle stint, I can gain time here. Or maybe I want to have a really short final stint because I'm going to be fatigued at that point. It's things like that. Or maybe just trying to keep as much fuel in the tank. So if you do want to overcut someone, you can.
You can indeed. A little bit of traffic for our leaders. That is Jake Fox in the 08. And we'll see if our leaders elect to go to the pits.
This could force the hand of the leaders to pit. Unless Fox pits.
At which he does.
You know what? I think Dance was coming in then.
Yeah, he almost did. And Thomas O'Leary has decided to go for it as well. So, obviously, there's been an incident at pit entry. O'Leary getting into the wall there. And looks like that was almost contact with Jake Fox.
What on earth happened there?
Jake Fox put the pit limiter on early.
Yeah, but then O'Leary gassed it up and just spun himself out right here. Gasses it up. Fence.
Maybe a bit of confusion at the 08 appearing so quickly. So ultimately that means he's lost out to Hins there.
Yeah. He's seen him and then turned left to go by him and then tried to gas it up to get a little bit of extra pace before he gets to the pit limiter. And yeah, I guess the track there is a bit bumpy and it's unloaded the car and he's found not the fence but the wall of the pit complex, and that's going to put some damage on that car that he didn't want to have. And suddenly the third place guy had said, was just sitting back and lurking. Now looking like he's going to lose a whole host of time down on pit road.
Indeed. Jamie McKnight out of the pits then. We'll see how this works out as we hear Stephen Williams has missed his pit box. No, actually crashed at pit entry, did Stephen Williams. So that pit entry is continuing to catch drivers out here. The battle between Hinz and McKnight, well, that's how it works out. McKnight letting Hinsey go just earlier and remains ahead after the pit stops. So let's have a look at what happened here to Stephen Williams just off the circuit, locked up, and that's going to be one of those painful moments as a driver. All four wheels locked, the car won't slow down, it won't steer, it won't do anything. So that's about 10 seconds, I reckon, that Stephen Williams has lost all up from that. Leader's coming up to pit road, and in comes Dance. Danson's staying out.
There you go. Did these guys not practice their pit entries? A lot of mistakes on pit road. Just
we always say it, practice your pit entry.
So Dance gets in without trouble, that's not surprising. Danson goes a lap long, that's not surprising either. This is going to be the lap where Danson's going to throw absolutely everything at it that he's got. Maximum attack from him. It's a qualifying lap on 24 lap old tyres.
Yes, indeed. So, he's got no one in front of him now. It's just him and the track. McKnight and Hinz close together out on track as well, coming down Conrod Straight. So this has put another little spark under Jamie McKnight in his pursuit here. I reckon he and Hinz are going to be battling towards the end. And Jay reckons it's almost guaranteed that this is going to be a new fastest lap of the race from Jamie McKnight, but Thomas Hinz still on the cold tyres, backing into him a little. And this is the point where Jamie McKnight reckons, you know, I could have a go at Hinsey here while his tyres are still cold, but he knows Hinsey's pace.
Yeah, exactly. That's the power of the undercut there, that Thomas Hinz lost out so much to McKnight, with McKnight hitting a lap or two earlier than him. Just misses out on the fastest lap. By the way, 7 thousandths too slow to get that purple. Hinsey's tyres will come good. Danson's run wide. He's waiting for his tyres to come good. Once they do, that's when you find the pace that McKnight's carrying right now. That mistake from Danson was not what he needed on a lap where he needs to be as fast as he can to overcome the advantage Danson's going to have with the undercut.
Yes, indeed. There's Aston Hurley in the pits. Thomas O'Leary. Whoa, Thomas O'Leary went for the short fill, so he's actually ahead of Cameron Dance here. 12 seconds less fuel at the stop, so there goes Matt Danson.
But he spun.
Well, obviously...
How much less? Was it 12 seconds? 12 seconds less in the stop, or 12 seconds less overall? So
12 seconds short of stop.
Okay, so plus he's probably lost 5, 6, maybe more seconds with that incident entering pit road. He's really pulled a blinder. Now, he's going to have to get this fuel back at some point in this race, so this isn't necessarily a O'Leary's into the lead of the race move. Dance is on pit road here, and we'll touch on O'Leary more in a minute. We'll see where this bright green Horizon Racing Team drip machine comes back out on the racetrack. Rolled off
43 second stop for Cameron Dance. We'll have to wait and see what kind of time Matt Danson comes up with. It's 43 seconds for Dance, 31 seconds for Thomas O'Leary. Dance out onto the pit straight, and Danson is still stood still in his box. This is going to be close. 38 seconds, 39 seconds. He's still stopped, and away he goes. So
5.8 from Thomas Hinz in the meantime to put the new fastest lap in, and look how close Cameron to Matt Danson, sorry. So Danson's fallen back to Hinz and McKnight. He's going to have cold tyres, so Hinz is going to really catch him on this lap. Cameron Dance has opened up his gap, and Thomas O'Leary is just throwing a massive wildcard in the mix. He's going to have to pit, I would probably think, maybe by lap 40. to not run out of fuel. Because
Yeah.
he's not going to have 22 laps worth of fuel in that car, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. We saw Wayne Taylor, and I think there was Alex Court down in the pits. They came in together. They leave together. So Mr. O'Leary, he's really throwing the spanner into the works here. We don't quite know exactly how this race is going to stack up now. What he needs to do is just continue the way he is and hope that he doesn't make any more mistakes. Matt Danson as well will be looking in his rearview mirrors here, because away comes Thomas Hins. This is going to be 4P3, another lock-up for Danson coming into Forest Elbow. He's been doing that quite a bit, which means his tyres not exactly the best they could be.
So, assuming that fuel flow is 3.75 litres a second, O'Leary's taken 45 litres less than Dance.
Yeah. So
The tank they have available to them, they have a maximum fuel capacity of... They're running the fuel tank? The full tank? They are. 110? 111 litres. So he's got about 50% of the tank. So
9
maybe...
laps.
Yeah. 9, 10, 11 laps maybe. That's it. So expect him back in pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I think O'Leary, by going for this short fill, obviously negating the mistake he made on pit road, but with a bit less fuel in the car, he'll be on average faster out on track, so he'll be hoping that he can take advantage of that somehow and keep him in the fight for this top 3, but the way that Thomas Hins and Jamie McKnight have been going, that top 3 battle is going to have 2 new fighters. In fact, it pretty much already does. Matt Danson's tyres will be almost up to temperature now, so he can start putting in those times that he is known for. But Thomas Hins keeping it nice and clean behind in the Ra2 Mustang and advancing forward.
Love that shot. The back of the car is always trying to slide out from them as they come under the tree and head towards Solomon Park and into McPhillamy as well. How often have we seen drivers dipping their tyres in the grass through Skyline? Can't afford to get it wrong because you'll find the fence all the way down through the S's of the dipper. Just like Brock Finney did today. Super 2. Now, Danson's off the brake again. Cameron Dance needs to take advantage of this gap he has. It's 4 seconds. He's got 5 seconds in hand over Hins, which is a lot less than he had over Hins before the pit stops. So that gap's come down while the gap to the car immediately behind him's gone up. He needs to take advantage of that because once Hins clears Danson, he's going to have a clear track to close up and go and try and pass Dance for the effective race lead once we discount O'Leary from that group.
Yes, that's going to be an interesting moment in a few laps' time, but that was an attempted move by Hinsey at the chase. Had a good look up the inside of Matt Danson, and there is Cameron Dance. That is the visual gap that you see. The rest of the cars in the background there, and O'Leary... Yeah, I don't really know what to think about this. At the very least, you know that Hins is going to be involved in the lead battle towards the end if he keeps up this pace. And I want to talk about championship leader Will Leslie briefly, because he's had an incredibly quiet race, just coming out of the dipper, running in 20th, and I mean, I've been watching him for a while. He is not pushing this car at all. I think you're 100% right, Ryan. What you said at the start, it's all about just making sure he gets to the finish. He doesn't want to take any risks.
The stat sheet will show that he started 10th, but the reality is he began this race out of pit lane. Ultimately, it's probably going to cost him a lap. He'll probably finish a lap down. He's already a minute and a half behind the leader. But he's up to 20th. He's passed 8 cars already. With the attrition rate more than likely going to go up the further we go into this race, you would probably say there's at least 2, 3 more cars you can pass purely based off finishing. And then in front of him, he's got Williams 10 seconds up the road. Also, Aston Hurley, Dwayne Burns, and Dean Moll within 30 seconds. So maybe a few more spots there. He has cost himself the chance of a good result, but he is guaranteeing himself, if he finishes, a good points haul. And if Dance wins, it won't completely reverse the championship margin.
Exactly right. So I think that Mr. Leslie is doing everything he needs to right now as we observe this battle between Bowen and Taylor for last 2 positions in the top 10, making their way past Jake Fox, who is currently the last running car on track. Pierre Cousin has retired, we believe. He's not made another appearance out on track. He's currently scored 14 laps down on the leader. Wayne Taylor
On board.
wants to consolidate that.
Yeah. Lap 29, sorry, lap 28 for these drivers. They're just beginning lap 28. O'Leary's already halfway through it. Of 81, so not even halfway through the race. And we've only had 1 retirement. There's 4 cars 1 lap down. So drivers have kept it relatively clean so far, which is good to see. Although I think Vostrel might just be in the process of retiring due to some connectivity issues that he's having. At the top, here, Hinds and Danson have closed up race.
They have indeed. Danson all over his mirrors right now, coming around the S's down the top of the hill. It's all about the exit from Forest Elbow here for Hinds. It's a wider entry from Danson, another little lock-up. Hinds, meanwhile, fires it right to the inside of the corner, makes a bit of a V-shape out of his racing line. And that will allow for a bit less heat getting into the tyres, a bit better of an exit. The draft is working out for him down the straight, but once again, he's a bit too far behind Danson to really make a move. But I mean, you can really see from the visual gap, Jamie McKnight is not even in this battle anymore. That shows you how quick Hinds and Danson are. And with Matt locking up at the chase like he just did, that's another potential chance for Hindsey as he has yet another look down into Murray's corner. Just a little clip of the curb from Danson and out onto the curb. Yeah, he's overshot, goes defensive immediately. So Hinds now on the outside into Hell corner. This is not going to be easy. Danson protecting the inside. Moves out, gives Hinds the room. Hinds managed to hold it around the outside. A bit of side-by-side contact between the 2 of them.
No reason to aggressively block the inside and then squeeze that much on the exit from Danson there. Letting his emotion and passion to finish this race in first, get ahead of himself there. He realized that with Hinds making that move, it was effectively taking away that second spot from him. And he also realised that with the pace Hinds had, he could go up and pass Cameron Dance, but if you wreck yourself trying to block that spot, well then, I mean, what's the point? So, he's almost done it again there. He's just got to calm down a little bit here.
Yeah. Tried to go for the over-under out of the cutting, but that's not going to work in pretty much any car.
He'd be better served, wouldn't he, to sit now and realise, okay, why is Hindsey so much quicker than me? And learn where he's finding that time.
Yeah, exactly. This is a great opportunity for Danson because, you know, Hinds doesn't have to leave him in the dust. I mean, we saw how the top 3 raced coming off the start. Matt Danson was very content to sit behind Cameron Dance and pound out the laps. Now, I think he's got to change his tack a little and do the same with Hindsey. But you see the exit that Thomas Hinds got from Forest Elbow, increasing the gap to Danson once again. Danson, I think, should back off, but he can't afford to back off too much because, look, McKnight is right there.
That's the other thing. With that scrap, it allowed McKnight to just reel in all of the gap that they had over him. And suddenly McKnight buys into the battle.
Well, it's now a 3-way fight, I reckon, between these 3.
And Hinsey leads across the line up into third.
Love the delivery that McKnight has as well. The Valvoline sponsored entry. Run with permissions, of course. That one. It's a car that we have seen a real life run as well, that sort of paint scheme. It's good to see McKnight repping it over in Scops for his team, Reese. Cool. So, what happened to Reese? Up the hill. Hinsey hasn't pulled away at all at the moment. Danson has stuck with him, which is good. He's settled down, and now he's sticking in the draft. A 7.5 from Hins on the last lap is a second silent covering dent. So, watch for that lap time to equalise on this one. Now that Hins has got a full lap to himself. It looks like Reese has had some sort of connectivity issue because he just dropped out of our iRacing server. So hopefully we nab him back in a little bit. Down through the S's, the dipper called for, well, it's obvious angle. The steepness through there, the inside left picks up and you're freewheeling it as you try to turn left and then quickly get it back to the right. I don't think I've seen Danson go through Forest Elbow once today without pinching that inside left front. So that's potentially one area he could work on his pace. For the back in the pack, Dean Mullen, Dwayne Burns in their scrap for P16. Mold's sort of treaded water in this race. This is exactly where he started. Dwayne Burns is on the recovery drive after starting up in 9th. Running into those early dramas is now up on the back of Mole. Don't expect the fight to be too big between them. We'll cast our eyes further forward once again. There's Phil Otto. Otto's a lap down at the moment. First car lap down, which doesn't mean anything when there's no caution or lucky dog to help you out, but does give him bragging right if you do finish first car lap down. Luke Crishley is up at Solomon Park. He's the last car on the lead lap, so that's the sort of difference between them in track position. It's quite substantial right now. Jay, how would you like to come into the comms box for a little while? Not really, he says. I wasn't asking?
It's alright, I'll come in and help you out. And a lot of races, a lot of drivers look like they're trying to get themselves into a rhythm, but same point, while they're trying to just calm down and calm their nerves a little bit, they're making huge mistakes. The likes of O'Leary's just been clipping the wall every now and again. Dancer's closing in very quickly. Mark Newton still, remember he set the fastest lap of the race on his first out lap with those new tyres?
Yeah.
He's still the fastest car on track, he's in 6th.
Yeah, he's doing a phenomenal job, isn't he? He's crept up, started 19th, and to run in 6th place now is phenomenal. I don't have any other words for it. That fastest lap, as you say, on his first lap after the pit stop for damage. He's slightly out of sequence because of his damage that he did pick up. He had to pit a little bit earlier. But I still think he can make it on 3 stops, which means he's still in position.
Yeah, I think he pitted at the first spot he could. I think it was lap 11. Then he'll pit after do 23 lap stints the whole way through. So he's not that different strategy-wise. And if anything, that early pit stop at the end could be a blessing in disguise because those guys at the front may then get undercut by the likes of Newton or other drivers that take that early final pit stop.
Good livery too. The Jack Daniels throwback that he's on.
Some of these throwbacks are very, very good. I've got a message last week from Daniel Stevens with all of the liveries as Danson's just lost that spot to Jamie McKnight. I know you went, ooh.
And McKnight just edges the car over to cut any fight back from Danson, who seems to have learned his lesson.
Oh,
no, he hasn't.
Cut to that replay at the wrong time, haven't I?
No, it's there we go. He threw it up the inside at turn 2, but McKnight held on, and now they're single file again. This is the replay of how McKnight got through. on the inside, simply out breakdancing. There wasn't much that green drip design car could do to fight back there. Wasn't able to get a particularly good exit out onto Mountain Straight. O'Leary still running around. We expect him in... Well, he's 45 litres short of fuel. Sometime between now and the next 3 laps, because he pitted in lap 22, didn't he?
Yeah, so probably, yeah, another 4 laps maybe at most. I mean, he doesn't look pace-wise like he's going at 100%. Definitely a bit of fuel saving going on, so he might be able to do 24. Yeah, 23 laps, so maybe... Of course, we don't know how much fuel was left in the tank when it lap.
He would have filled it up, so it doesn't matter, I think.
Right, right. Well, no, he didn't fill it up, that's the thing.
Oh.
I suppose he started with a full tank of fuel at the start, so yeah, right. Probably another, maybe 5, 6 laps at most. See when he does come in though, but it wasn't a bad ploy from O'Leary because, of course, we talk about it all the time when we broadcast NIS. You've got nothing to lose when you're in a situation where if you keep doing the same thing, you're not going to win the race. He had to do something to try and get himself some track position. Whether it pays off or not in the long run doesn't matter. The fact that he's tried something is always a real positive, I feel.
So he's run around this stint now by himself, not being held up by anyone. Whereas where he would have been is in that Hins, McKnight and Danson fight.
Yep.
Most certainly being held up at least for a couple of laps. So not a bad call for him. I think he's going to end up rejoining a long way down the order though, because
The strategy would have worked if he didn't have that issue.
Spun in pit lane, exactly right. Still, he could fight back. His lap times were right. He's holding station with Dance. 206.7 for him, 206.7 for Hins, 206.6 for Dance. Dance has 2 seconds in hand now. That's not right. 7 seconds in hand. A little bit less over Thomas Hins. The gap continuing to slowly shrink. Could come down to the fact that Hins might catch him in the final 10 laps of this race.
A good little fight here as Matthew Cloet goes up the inside of Shane Bowen. Refused to call it that other name. That's Griffin's Bend and always will be.
I suppose if you've been calling it Griffin's Bend for as many years as you have, it would change. It is still weird though, yeah. It's used to be.
I think it's only a one-off because it's definitely only a spot. It's still Griffin's Bend and it's Griffin's Bend in the sim, so it continues to be.
Middle grade. McPhillamy Park. Skyline. That's a treacherous sequence of corners. Doesn't get any easier. That's a locked up right front from Matthew Cloet. Which Bales will see those smoke signals and lick his lips. One of the most underrated corners in the racetrack is the entry to Forest Elbow. Not Elbow itself, but the entry, that right-hander. I don't know if it's actually classed as a corner, but it's so tricky.
Number, but yeah, it's a tough corner. Yeah, it does have that number. Yeah, it's a tough corner. It's very, very frustrating to get in. Very, very hard to get into as well, because it sets up basically your entire run through Conrad Straight. So getting it right doesn't just affect you there. You might lose a 10th at the elbow, but that 1/10 at the elbow could be 3 seconds by the time you get down the Murray's corner here. So that is, as you said, one of the toughest and most critical corners on the circuit.
You see a lot of locked up fronts in these cars. We saw this from the V8 Scops 1000 as well. These cars on iRacing tend to be a lot more prone to locking up their front tyres, but he seems to be able to get away with it a lot more than maybe you would in real life.
Yeah, potentially. I think because drivers are using their senses a little bit more, they can feel that lock brake, or probably react a lot more to a lock brake than they do in real life. So, because you don't have the seat of your pants feel in sim, you're relying on your wheel and things like that. So sometimes, running a little bit of extra force feedback to feel those locked up fronts, and then mean react to it a little bit quicker or a little bit more you become a little bit more reactive to it. Like in real life, you know, you might lock a front and think, oh, well, I'll just push someone. Or, you know, I didn't think it was as big a lock-up as I expected. So minor lock-ups in real life and major lock-ups in real life, they do react differently. In Sim, a lot of the time you don't know the difference between a minor and a major lock-up, so you react the same either way. That could be what it is. I don't know. I'm just making things up here. Reese is coming back, which is good for everyone out there.
Always. It couldn't come quick enough. Gap is still 2.5 seconds. O'Leary to Dance. Thank goodness the semi-proficient commentator has returned and we can boot the
I'm out.
semi I don't even know. It's not even that. Yeah, it's just get out of here, Jay. Get out of here.
Just the semi. He's just the semi.
I'm not touching that.
Uh-huh. You better not. Alright. I do apologise for my absence. Apparently, Petra Vostral is not the only one having connectivity issues tonight.
You don't happen to both live in the same city?
I would have no idea. Petra Vostral, Central Eastern Europe. Well, last time I checked, Perth is not in Central Eastern Europe.
May as well be.
Yeah, compared to everything else, I guess, yeah. Oh well. We continue with this race, and Thomas Hinds has gotten the gap down to nearly 5 seconds to Cameron Dance. So he's pretty relentless right now, is Hinsey, just jumping on in and putting in quick laps all the time, every time, and overcoming quite the oversteer on the exit of the Dipper.
That Ratu Racing cut. Got a very nice setup. They would have probably taken what they had for the 1000. Set up that for this team is almost always very good in the race. And he's applying it nicely at the moment. Half a second quicker than Dance on the last lap. We were theorising over when we'd see O'Leary into pit lane, and he's going a little bit longer than we thought. Second time of asking. I initially said lap 40, so maybe that could ring true.
Yeah, I think that is correct. And it could be any time between now and lap 40 for that matter, but we'll continue keeping an eye on Thomas O'Leary up at the front. But the gap is visual now there between Dance and Thomas Hinds. If you look at Dance coming over the top of Griffins, Hinsey right there coming across the top of the hill now. So that is how it all stacks up for what is the effective race lead. Matt Danson, unfortunately, not quite able to reach the heights he was reaching beforehand, and obviously that exchange happened while I was gone.
Yeah, he pulled a pass up the inside, and Danson tried, but wasn't able to fight like he did with Hinds. Into pit lane comes Jonathan Bain. So first driver to make their second stop, provided he actually gets to his box, which seems rather likely at this point. So lap 36, he'll be able to make it home from here on one more stop, I think.
Yeah, potentially. It's going to be quite interesting for him. Yeah, very tight in the last couple of stints. He's going to have to fuel save a fair bit if that is the case. Absolutely love this battle here with Wayne Taylor heading up this fight. So, not much change at the front of that battle for now, but you saw Matthew Cloet there really having some trouble up the hill, so now that's opened him to an attack from Mitchell Bales. It's a great opportunity to get on board with a car and see what it's like around this Mount Panorama circuit. We did it at the start of the broadcast, but now we have another ride along with Jamie McKnight here. Across the line, bit of a rise over the front straight and then into Hell Corner, braking at about the 100 metre marker. and that is Thomas Hinz just up ahead in P3. McKnight not using a whole lot of the exit curb at Hell Corner, which will probably help him. A bit less heat going through the tyres, and not as much of a chance of ruining your run down Mountain Straight. And the track goes uphill again on the run into Penrite Pass. I mean, all the love to Penrite in the world, but it's always going to be Griffin's Bend to me. Up the hill further towards the cutting, just getting off the brakes before they go through the left-hand kink. Got to keep it nice and stable in that braking zone. One lock-up can send you right into the wall. And this is where it really gets tight, up through Reed and Sulman. You've got to be very careful of that wall on the left. If you push a bit too hard through the right-hander, that is your lap gone. And McKnight just grazing against the wall in metal brake too. He's pushing hard on this particular lap, working the wheel through McPhillamy, slight bit of oversteer on entry, and then down into the S's. Got to keep it as straight as possible over these bumps. Your main objective is to slow down and maybe turn a little bit. Big exit out of the dipper, slams on the throttle. And this little flat out section towards Forest Elbow, the track falls away like a cliff, and that is the reason why you saw Matt Danson locking up so much there. It's just so steep. And then out onto Conrod Straight, into the draft of Thomas Hinz. He's on the verge of losing that draft, but as long as he gets in that position every lap, he'll be able to get as much out of it as he can. Then over the tarmac ribbon into the chase, braking a bit before 150 metres, pulls it up nicely for the apex, just kisses the curbs. A big oversteer at the exit. Of course, there's something you almost want in these cars. They turn better when they are on throttle. And then one more corner, Murray's. Make sure to avoid the curb. Keep it nice and smooth out to the finish. A lap around Bathurst with position 4 in this race.
I think that's good retribution for making you disappear on us 2 times, making you 2 minutes of a lap around Bathurst. I like your description of the S's, trying to slow the car down and maybe turn a little bit. Yeah, I would definitely put the emphasis on turning the S's.
Yeah, but I would put the emphasis on a little bit, because if you turn too much, then you get a tank slapper on down the hill, and it's right into the wall with you. There's Mark Newton into the pits for the second time this race.
3.2 seconds now between O'Leary and Dance. And Hinz closed in dramatically on Dance, so that wasn't O'Leary finding pace, that was Dance making a mistake. Mark Newton's pitted as well. That's someone we talked about while you were gone, Reese. His race he'd be having up to 6th place at the time. Now he's pitted and he's got to fall down the order, but should still be in a good spot. Because we worked out he is still on a 3-stop strategy, so he's still good to go.
Yeah, I reckon if Mark can hold on towards the end of this and not have another incident, he could be on for a top 10. But out he comes out of the pits and down to 17th, where he re-emerges behind the Chickadee machine. And that, of course, is Aston Hurley up ahead of him. So this could be another position very soon for Mark Newton. Meanwhile, our race leader, Thomas O'Leary, with that short initial pit stop after running into the wall. No pitting this time round for him, so another lap goes by. Oh, and I'm still keeping track of Aston Hurley and Mark Newton. There's been a change for position there. Aston locking up into the cutting and running wide across the marbles, which let Mark Newton through.
There's not much running wide you can do at the cutting without finding the fence on the outside there, something that so many have done over the course of touring car racing at this famed track. On the other side of the track, down Conrod, straight used to be the entire length of Forest Elbow to Murray's Corner, but it was cut back and reduced to reduce speeds, and as it turns out, we're still doing 290 kilometers an hour as we turn in on board with Matthew Clowett up the inside of Wayne Taylor. Was fortunate to be given room there. He was nowhere near close enough.
Yeah, Taylor saw him coming there and decided to go wide in advance to just let Cloak gather himself up. Shows you that Wayne Taylor, especially around Bathurst, one of those guys with his eyes on stalks, and There is some lap traffic letting these drivers through. This battle is not over by any means. Matthew Cloet, I think, a bit more confident under brakes into the chase, but he just wasn't close enough to Taylor to make it work that time round. Seeing another car in the pits, that's a 315, a Daniel Misdale.
I think these cars were seeing in, so Mark Newton coming in and Daniel Misdale, they both pitted early because of their damage, didn't they?
Yes.
Now, as Jay and I was saying, the good thing is, even despite how early they pitted, they'll have to pit early for their second and third stop, but not early enough that they can't make it home on 3. So this actually works out quite nicely for them. They get a pretty good undercut from this, and the tyre drop off kind of plateaus at the end of the stint, so they don't lose too much at the back end either.
Yeah, it's actually quite a good position for them to be in. So I guess we should look out for not just. Oh, there we go. There's Thomas O'Leary coming 39. On in. And, well, staying well away from the garages this time. Fortunately for him, Thomas Hinz follows him in. Mm.
So Hinz should be the short fuel this time.
We shall see. We'll
keep an eye on their stationary times.
Shall do.
It was, what, 31 seconds for O'Leary first stop?
Yes.
45-ish for Hinz and the rest. Here's Harold Stadler, riding in 6th. Stadler started this race 4th.
Indeed he did. I'm still monitoring Hinz and O'Leary in the pits. Just coming up to the short fill point for O'Leary, and it looks like Hinz is... Yeah, actually, he has gone for the short fill there. It's a 31.2 second stop for Thomas Hinz.
Dance needs to respond in short fuel as well, because he needs to make Hinz pass him on the racetrack. If Hinz passes him on pit road, he's done it. He doesn't have the pace to respond to Hinzy.
Nah, just doesn't. I mean, you put them head to head on the same set of tyres, same conditions, and Thomas Hinz has the edge.
I think there's a chance that Dance could hold him off in a straight fight, but I don't think he could pass him in a straight fight. So if I'm Mizomo, who I know is up there crew chiefing for Dance at the moment, I'm telling him, Hinzy just short field. Maybe we should short field as well. Because if they go long, Hinzy's going to be ahead of them. While Hinzy's ahead of them, he's going to be doing good lap times, and he could reach the point where he eclipses the buffer that he would have had behind Dance, and thus jumps him by the third stop.
Yep, that's what the Fitstye guys will be thinking about, but not for the moment, because Cameron Dance stays out for one more lap. They might be operating with the prediction that it'll all equal out by the end, and they might take a short fill at one of their future stops. But we'll have to see.
Well, you're right, Reese, because if they are short fueling, well, obviously they can short fuel, make it to the end. So there's definitely no traffic there, Reese.
Yeah.
So
blame Jay. Blame Jay.
Yes, I can get on board with that. So the short fuel could come in third stop. The issue is, Dance wants to make sure if he does short fuel the final stop, that he hasn't gotten too far behind Hinz and can still get out ahead of him. We'll see.
Yeah.
Still a lot to play out. We've just eclipsed halfway.
Yeah, you don't want to waste that opportunity if it's presented to you. So it'd be interesting to see what the Fitstye guys do up in that number 1 machine. Wayne Taylor and Mitchell Bales now continue to fight out on track. They were joined by Matthew Clout before, but we just saw Matthew in the pits. So we're still waiting for these guys to jump on in for their next stop of the night. Have a look at this between Jonathan Bean and Daniel Misdale. It's a great exit for Misdale out of Forest Elbow, but Bean just leaves him the room there on driver's left as the track kinks over. That's a great run from Daniel, and obviously helped, I think, by Jonathan Bean's slight damage on the side as we are now past half race distance. And that's a move there for
Oh.
Misdale. Oh, almost came back at him, did Jonathan Bean, and tried to hold it round the outside, but just overshooting into the grass. And there goes Cameron Dance, our race leader.
That would have opened Dance's eyes.
Absolutely. Wake up.
And he, luckily, was able to give Bain enough room to get back on the racetrack without hitting him. Hurley on pit road as well, and then his throwback. Danson goes around for another trip. Danson, I think, the big loser in this race now. So strong through the first stint, but he's just fallen away. He's 3 seconds behind McKnight, 9 seconds behind Dance. Lost it in the pit stop, and now just doesn't seem to be able to get it back when he's by himself.
Yeah, I think Danson needs another car with him out there on track to really get those times. You know, if you're sitting in the draft, or at the very least, if you have someone to follow, to get into a rhythm with, that might be what was helping Danson up at the start. But Hinsey comes on through now in P6 to begin his first proper lap. And it's going to be a, wow, 2:05.330. Hello, new fastest lap.
Pretty
What is
decent
track
lap.
temperature? Track temp's down to 41. It's dropped off massively. The sky is still clear according to in-sim conditions, but this track is getting faster and faster as every minute goes by.
Yeah, 3:15 in sim time. That is interesting, actually, that it's dropping. I suppose 3 is about the time it would start to drop, but keep an eye on it, see how low it goes by the time we finish this one off in about an hour and a half's time.
Yeah, the sun will be dipping a bit lower by that point as Taylor and Bales continue this battle for 8th place. Taylor just a little bit wide on the exit, got a bit crossed up. But Bales not able to take advantage through this section. Once you enter the cutting, you're pretty much stuck behind the car in front until you get to the exit of Forest Elbow. That is, if the car in front of you doesn't make a mistake, which Wayne Taylor has not made many mistakes in this race so far. Actually done quite a good job there, putting himself up in that position. Mitchell Bales, a bit more aggressive on the brakes. You actually saw him lift off there as he went through the left-hander. Just making sure that he doesn't lock up and go into the back of Taylor. So Conrod straight. Go on, Ryan, sorry.
O'Leary, by the way, rejoined in 7th place. 8 seconds behind Hins.
That's going to be tough to make up.
Just in front of Taylor, Bales, that battle behind them that we're watching now. You're right, it's going to be tough to make up. What was Hinsey's stationary time? Was it more or less than O'Leary's, or about the same as O'Leary's first one?
It was 31.2 for Hins, and it was also a 31-second stop for O'Leary, so pretty much dead even. Oh, there we go. That's Harold Stadler in the pits from 5th place.
So I think we can expect Cameron Dance to do a 31-second stop at some point in this race, whether that be now or during the 3rd stop.
And which one is it going to be? You're going to find out right along with us as Mitchell Bales backs out of his battle with Wayne Taylor. Jumps on into pit road. Cameron Dance dealing with some traffic there up at the top of the mountain and through the S's. That would have been a bit scary for both he and Daniel Misdale, but looks like they both managed to get through that unscathed as Dwayne Burns brings it on in as well. So this is the second proper wave of pit stops that we're seeing tonight.
Headlights flashing to indicate the pit limiter is on that number 19 car, driven by Dwayne Burns, as Cameron Dance very much not doing the pit speed limit. Flies into the chase. Is he going to slow things down and bring this car to get its second service of the day? He stays left and he comes to pit road on lap 43 of 81. The gap to Thomas Hins, 49 seconds.
Well, we'll see where they stack up when Dance finishes. That's a big lock-up by McKnight into Murray's corner. He's lost probably at least half a second out of that one, and Danson would have seen that and thought, oh, hello, thank you very much, mate. I would like this draft, but Jonathan Bean right there in the 018. Interesting note about Jonathan Bean and a host of other cars. They've actually gone for some quicker pit stops themselves. Misdale's last stop was a 33.6. It was a 33.3 for Aston Hurley. For Dean Moll, 38.5. Stephen Williams, I think, currently has the shortest pit stop of anyone, 21.2 seconds.
So here comes Hins. Dance still up on the jacks. Gap is definitely reduced by this point. Evaporated.
He's going
Gone.
for the full fill.
Reverse. Thomas Hins then will take the lead away because Cameron Dance is going to fill the way up. And I think this is a misplay. Oh, he's at the fence!
Oh no! Right at pit exit. Was that the
Yep.
the inside or the outside? It was the inside wall. So, modem simulation replay of this one. He's in the final pit box. We'll see the launch from Dance out of the stop, and
What you get for jumping with the pace car?
there we go. Ugh. So that might have knocked his front suspension slightly out of alignment. At the very least, he's got some front bumper damage as well.
Well, Hins now has track position and a clean car.
The two things that you need the most.
Even with the short field, I think Hins is going to have enough of a pace advantage in the stint that even with the short field, Dance won't end up back ahead of him. Gap's 9 seconds between them now. Difference between a short and a full fuel stop is 12 seconds. McKnight and Danson haven't pitted yet. McKnight's about to change that fact, and Danson's going to go out for an extra lap, just like he did in stint 1.
Right, so Danson obviously a fan of going a little bit longer. One more lap for him. And in terms of Cameron Dance, well, I am taking a look at him right now, and look at who is right behind him, Thomas O'Leary. So this could certainly work out in the last half of the race for Mr. O'Leary. Depends on his next stop time as well as Dance's next stop time, because you know we would assume that there's going to be at least one short fill for the Fitzstein number 1, which should equal things out between Dance and O'Leary in terms of strategy.
Going to be an interesting to see how this all pans out then, as we head towards lap 45 of 81. Allegedly no damage for Cameron Dance, says his spotter, Mizomo. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, me either.
I can visibly see the damage on the front.
Yeah, can quite clearly see the left edge of that bumper is a little bit crumpled. Obviously, I think maybe Mizomo looking sus, Jay says. Oh boy, already starting with the Among Us references, but there's no imposters in this top 3. They all deserve to be there when it equals out.
Well, maybe Hins. He's not been a regular in the series.
Well, yeah.
That'd be kind of...
This
but
is
very deserving of his spot inside the top 3. Showing exemplary pace and discipline in his overtaking moves so far as well. Expect that Danson will come in this lap. 1 lap extra like he did in stint 1. There he goes. Gonna keep going.
Jay's saying he might even do an extra one from this. Don't tempt fate. He did 24 laps on the first stint, and well, now he's on lap 46. So if you wanna go for 24-24, he could do 2 more laps out of this.
So if Danson fills this up all the way, his final stop could be remarkably short. He then does another 24 laps. So if he pits on lap 48, end of 48, and then comes back out and then rejoins at the end, pits again for his 3rd stop at the end of lap 72, he's only going to need enough fuel for 9 laps. 10 laps, sorry.
So Danson might be playing the long game here. I mean, we've already seen O'Leary and Hins take their short fills, but maybe Danson is leaving his right to the end.
Mind you, 10 laps is still 30 seconds station, about where we've seen the bits for O'Leary and Hinz. Gap is 10 seconds already. Hinz to Dance.
Yeah, now that Thomas Hinz has assumed that effective race lead, he's wasting no time, putting in the fast laps, doing low 206s already. As we're hearing, Dance is pulling away from O'Leary, as you can see on screen. Gap now over 1.2 seconds, so Cameron has gotten back into his rhythm, and the damage probably not interfering with that at all, as Jamie McKnight makes his way past some traffic there. Or was that a pass for position? I think it was a pass for... No, it's not. Getting his way past Phil Otto in the 013. So McKnight pounding away in 6th spot there, and this looks like it is a battle for position between Phil Otto and Daniel Stevens. Remember, Stevens, is this an exchange? That is Phil Otto yielding at Skyline, which is probably put a bit of the fear in Daniel Stevens if he wasn't alerted to that beforehand, which I'm sure he was. But Stevens, not in a position he'd want to be. Qualified in the top 10 and having to work his way forward. Shane Bowen and Will Leslie now 12th and 13th, and Leslie still working his way back up through the field after his pit lane start. So it's looking like a nice stable race for the championship leader, as true to Jay's predictions, Matt Danson has gone for yet another lap.
Another one? We do another one?
Another one. I couldn't resist.
Yeah. I thought so. If he does a full tank stop, he'll come out behind O'Leary. Where's Wayne Taylor? He's 10 seconds behind O'Leary. Yeah, she'll probably come out between O'Leary and Wayne Taylor. O'Leary's not that far behind Dance, but don't forget, Dance has done 2 full stops at the moment, so that is a bit of a false gap between them at the moment.
That it is. And Wayne Taylor, we're hearing, has also only done 1 stop as well, so he's going super long like Matt Danson, and it's only 3 corners to go for Danson until he is at pit entry. The big question for us is, will he go for it this time, or will he exceed all of our expectations and go for yet another lap? Let's have a look then. Out of the chase he goes.
Pitting.
Yep. So now
Car off at the final corner.
stopwatch.
Matthew Clowett has found the fence and gets out of the gravel just about. Modem Simulation Replay is going to tell us what happened to the 54.
So over the crest then for him.
Yeah, Danson spun in pit lane.
Oh no! So looks like Clowett had a tech issue. That's what caused that crash for him. But Matt Danson will stay on the replay to see his pit lane spin. Oh, he just went in too hard. And then tagging? No, not tagging the wall, but getting out over the grass. So that is Danson's hopes for a podium, possibly even a top 6 dashed. We did hit the wall. And it would have been very awkward to get that going again for Mr. Danson. Much time lost. He is in his box, though, so he can continue, but unless something drastic happens up the front, he's not going to be playing a part in this anymore. There's Thomas O'Leary, still falling back from Dance.
McKnight goes by him. Wayne Taylor goes by him. Daniel Stevens. Mark Newton's coming back. Mark Newton's really coming back. He's past him.
How about it? Dance has just managed to get going as well, so coming up behind Newton. And Newton's on for a top 5 here, which...
Once Taylor pits, yeah.
Yeah. It's quite the drive from Mark. I mean, we certainly didn't expect him to be a factor in this race at all, but now we're past halfway. Here he is, taking his spare car early on. That does increase the pressure for Newton quite a bit, though, because you do only get one spare car. He's not going to have that safety net if he makes another mistake.
Be cool if they had spare cars in real life.
Yeah, it would be. They used to have it in Formula One, but and obviously we used to have it down here on Oz as well. In fact,
I
Peter
thought
Brock
that was
won a Bathurst with 2 cars.
I thought that was his teammate's car he jumped into, not actually a spare car.
Technical resemblance to a spare car.
The Formula E series had a spare car, didn't they? But they had to use it to actually get through the whole race because the batteries weren't lasting long enough in their early seasons, but they've progressed from that medieval time of having to use 2 cars to do an all-electric race.
The Dark Ages.
Oh no, is that going to be our story when we get older? Back in my day, we needed 2 cars to do one race.
Yeah.
What do you mean, Dad? Now we can do 24 hours without stopping.
We don't need to change tyres either.
You don't use tyres.
Understand, son. You wouldn't understand.
So across the top, who are we looking at the moment? One of the Kinetic cars with one of the TechSense Fitstar cars, and honestly, it doesn't narrow it down too much, does it?
It is Mull and I believe Stadler. No, that is a number 1. No, it's not. It's not a number 1. Production feed. I have some trouble reading it from time to time, but it is Matt Andrews in the Fitstar car chasing down Dean Mull in the number 31. Aston Hurley up ahead of Alders.
My production feed's 360p. What's your excuse? Blind.
Oh, there we go. Wayne Taylor in the pits. So let us see. You said that Taylor was potentially going to lose out to Newton, right?
Correct. That he is.
Yeah.
Newton's at the top of the mountain. Wayne Taylor's just coming out of pit lane. I'd call that losing out.
Yeah.
Taylor's come out behind Shane Bowen, so he's scored an 11th now. So, top 5. So Thomas Ince leads by 10.2 seconds. Dance second. Should be 12 seconds quicker than him on the next stop, so earmark that. Thomas O'Leary sits in 3rd. Jeremy McKnight is in 4th. He's 20 seconds away. Wayne Taylor is no longer 5th, sorry. Mark Newton's up to 5th after starting 19th, running into early dramas and accidentally putting himself on a really good strategy.
Yes, indeed. Wayne Taylor running quite well at the moment as we continue to ride on board with Andrews versus Mull. And these 2 guys, oh, that's a big slide for Mull out of the cutting. He keeps the throttle pinned, but no, that's not going to happen. Mull having to run wide over the marbles and let Andrews go. And continuing to lose time in the acceleration zone. So, now, another on-track battle brewing. Matt Danson, after losing out massively on his last run into pit road, will now want to try and get that top 5 back from Mark Newton. We're going to have to compare lap times properly once everything gets up to temperature. It's
I'd say his tires
for Newton.
are up to 10. Sorry, 6.1 for Danson, so he's 4 tenths quicker. But the pace differential isn't as big as you'd expect from someone that qualified 2nd compared to someone that qualified 19th.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I mean, it still boggles my mind to just behold how Mark Newton has managed to work his way through this field. Burns and Hurley, meanwhile, coming back together. These 2 have toured through the pits. Looks like Aston Hurley having the measure of him here. Aston, of course, we usually see in dirt racing events here on SimSpeed TV on Thursday nights. And Dwayne Burns one of the stalwart competitors in the Majors series. It's a good exit from Hurley. Doesn't look like it's going to be much of an advantage, though, down Mountain Straight, at least for the time being.
We have hit lap 50 in the Bathurst 500. It is 3 stops this race, which is that 4 stints? Is that a quad stint? Yeah. So it's back-to-back stints with these drivers, which in the 1000 would be talked about as a mammoth effort. So,
and it'd probably be pushing the limits of legality as well, because remember, there is a minimum and a maximum distance that every driver must complete in order to ensure a fair division. In real life, I mean to say. So it should work out to a stint of about 3.5 hours, which is quite a long time to be sitting in any race car, but in these ones in particular, I mean, you're driving one of these things in real life, it gets up to 50 degrees in the cockpit. It's 1,500 kilograms, 650 horsepower, a lock differential. It is not a car that is designed to be easy to drive.
A lot of these guys probably sat in rooms with air conditioning. Bad cooling on your PC, though, might make the room a little bit hotter. I have that issue with my laptop.
Yeah, that's something you got to think about. I mean, real life racing teams think about, how much blanking can we put on the brake ducts? You know, how much do we have to open up the intake for the engine? For a sim racer, it's a case of, do I need to put an extra fan or two here besides my PC? Because PCs can get quite hot when running a piece of software for a long time, and iRacing is legendary for being, pretty easy on the CPU, and a wide variety of systems can run it, but, doing it for this long, it's still quite the ask of your hardware on any game.
Sometimes I've considered just grabbing a fan and just directing it underneath the aircon to blow the cold air towards all the electronics in my room, because I don't know if you have this. Sitting in my room right now, it feels like the aircon is not on.
Really?
I've got the TV on. Big TV generates a lot of heat, and then the laptop blowing a ridiculous rate of knots and blowing a lot of hot air out.
Yeah, might be worth looking into that, as we see the track temperature has dipped below 40 degrees for the first time, now at 39, and we've still got easterly winds there, but they're varying a little bit in their speed. So I reckon we can expect that fastest lap to be smashed at least 2 more times before the race finishes. Yes, Thomas Hinz is way out in the lead, he's looking pretty comfortable, but when the next pit stop cycle comes around, you're going to see drivers start to turn up the wick again. Right, so we were looking at a version of Thomas Hinz's livery that he is not running at the moment. This is the actual car. Lovely shade of metallic green on that Zuba machine.
Damn it, Jay.
This particular here is allegedly not Jay's fault.
I mean, I've been seeing this livery for the whole event. So Hinsey going strong, 10.7 seconds. If he can find another 2 seconds, he should be able to stay ahead of Dance when Dance does what we suspect to be a short pit on his final stop of the race. Something that McKnight has up his sleeve as well, I think.
Yeah, I think he does. So this could be quite the fight for the top 5 positions when we get into those final 10 laps. Wayne Taylor. Oh yeah, Newton, goodness me. Actually coming under immense pressure from Matt Danson now, coming into the chase. Had a bit of traffic to help them in the form of Daniel Stevens, who continues to run P20. No, Newton! A little bit too deep. Minor lock-up in the rears. That allowed Danson to get on the back of him, but a bit of oversteer on the exit of the chase. Danson has a look up the inside, but Newton was able to cover him off quite nicely at the exit of the chase. That prevented him from using the momentum to get down the inside into Murray's, but this is not over.
When he locked up and ran wide from blimp cam, I could see the marbles on the outside. He missed them by the skin of his teeth. If he got into those marbles, he'd have skated even further wide and probably off the track as well. So he just escaped that. And a bit lucky that Danson wasn't able to get by him and all that. Doing a fantastic job to fend him off right now. And Danson's probably going to be a little bit disappointed with how this is panning out. He's running in 6th. He's not showing great pace. And he's a long way off anyone else ahead of him, with the exception of Newton. Ignite 16 seconds up the road in 4th.
Yeah, true. Well, I think with that particular incident, Danson, we would have had the run on Newton coming out of the chase if he hadn't had that big slide on the exit of the corner. So I think Danson just taking stock of what he needs to do. We noticed that the fight between Danson and O'Leary was starting to close up a little bit as well. O'Leary just coming back at Dance a little bit, but no further developments from that side of the field. Another lock-up for Matt Danson, and that was on the run-up into Forest Elbow, which is a bit of an interesting place to lock up the tyres. Usually you do it on the run-up to the apex. And you see how much the gap has increased there over Mark Newton. You know, one mistake can ruin your entire lap. We keep saying that, and that's proof in the pudding.
When do we expect the window to open for them to be able to make it home? Looking at 24 lap stints from Danson. I don't know.
Lap 56. Lap 56, lap 57, I reckon. So we're coming up to that window very shortly, aren't we? Yeah. Burns continuing to hold off Hurley for 14th. I mean, it's impossible in some ways to move Dwayne Burns, because he parks that car on the racing line and defends really staunchly. Big slide on the exit of the Dipper, which isn't going to help him a huge amount, but still, I reckon Burns is doing more than enough to keep himself ahead of Aston Hurley there. Hurley's last lap time, a 2:08.18, a 2:08.356 for Burns, so Hurley the one with the advantage on one lap pace, but Dwayne just sitting there and keeping him behind. All he needs to do right now. Ideally, he'd want to try and advance forward, but there's quite the gap to the next car in front, which is Jonathan Bean.
Here's a battle for P23. Troy Allen from Maverick Racing Casuals got Phil Otto in behind him. Remember, Phil Otto, way back at the start of this race, had nowhere to go when Pierre Cousins spun in front of him, coming out of turn 2, and was damaged as a result. He's a lap down. They're both 2 laps down, sorry, but he is sticking in this race. Now, Will Leslie, last time we picked up on him, he was running 20th. He's gained 1 spot since then. Next car up the road for him is quite some ways away, 20 seconds. Now, we didn't see much drama on lap 1, and at this point, I think starting in pit lane is not working out for Leslie, because he's finishing a long way down the order.
Yeah.
And if Dance finishes where he could, Dance could steal the lead away just about in terms of championship.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you do make a good point there. O'Leary probably elected to start from the pits because he was anticipating a big pile-up on lap 1.
Leslie.
But yeah, that did not happen. Sorry, yeah, Leslie. My apologies. Matt Danson has another look at Newton coming into Griffins, but it's not going to happen once again. Checking in up the top with Dance and O'Leary. The gap falling. It's now under 0.4 of a second for O'Leary. So Dance obviously either backing off a bit or dealing with some wayward behaviour in his car.
11.7. That crucial number is getting very close. Now, we mentioned the fuel window being open at about lap 59. Or just before that. That's not the case if you're going to short fuel this final stop.
Yes, indeed. I mean, technically, you still could. You're just topping up the tank, but there's many ways.
Oh, I
that
don't
can
like
go.
it.
I mean, look, strategy isn't always our strong point here at SimSpeed TV. That's why we get people like Lachlan Mansell in to help us out. But,
I envision Lockie commentating with about a dozen books and notepads and diagrams and calculations scattered around him.
yeah, he's got a whole setup that he uses. He's right in there with calculators and spreadsheets during a Scops Enduro, which you obviously have a lot of respect for Lockie, a real life motorsport commentator, and doing the job that both you and I, Ryan, hope to move into one day.
I think we just got to steal his job.
Yeah. I mean, that works too. Here comes Danson into Murray. It's into hell, sorry. But that's not going to work once more. He does have a
Set up
good
the
run.
exit.
Yeah, set up the exit, and that will be the run into Griffin. So he's got to be careful of Newton, though, depending on which side of the track he moves to. Newton's sticking to the racing line. Oh, here we go. Moves over. Now Newton cannot cover him. And late on the brakes goes Matt Danson, uses the crown of the road to his advantage and is back through into P5.
And Newton didn't fight that too hard in the end. He didn't want to give up a very solid position in a squabble gone wrong. So he lets Danson go, and you never know. One of these two could still make a mistake before this race is over, and things could change again. Now onus is on Danson to pull away and not give Newton any chance to get back by him. There's your race leader, Thomas Hinds. A great drive from him at the moment. Started 12th, is up to the front, and is just fractions of a second away from pulling a gap that might leave him safe following the final stop of the race. Dance second. O'Leary third. And there is Gemma McKnight in fourth. 8 seconds behind that duo. Also with an underfeel or a shorter stop up his sleeve, we think, which should put him ahead of O'Leary as well. So McKnight looking at a podium.
Well, that's certainly one way things can go, but Bathurst always throws up surprises. Doesn't matter what category you're racing or how long the race is, there's always a surprise of some kind. So watch out for that last pit stop. See if McKnight can pip O'Leary to that podium position. We think it's likely, but there's always that possibility that things can go differently. Mark Newton then falls into line behind Matt Danson, and this is another opportunity that Mark can use to fuel save a bit more, consolidate what should be a very solid top 6 for him.
You know how Danson's only just got by him? Well, in a minute, Newton's going to have to pit. He's probably going to be the first pitter, give or take a couple cars, given the strategy he's on with the forced early pit stop he had. Now, I also think Newton might have an undercut up his sleeve as well. So I think with fresh tyres and an undercut,
could be back into that top 5.
Could play himself back into a top 5, a very realistic top 5 chance again.
Oh, man. Possibilities.
Times like these, I regret not noting down the pit stop times of every driver for every stop.
Yeah, I mean, look, once again, that's why we need another guy in here helping us out with all that stuff, because, you know, we've got an awful lot to focus on up here.
Think,
Jay, obviously, watching the timing sheets.
He doesn't do much. Just clicks buttons.
Jay clicks buttons.
I think I've got that job on Monday morning our time. The Americans will run their version of this race for the Majors Series. I'm jumping in comms for that one with 2 people. I haven't checked the roster yet, so I don't know.
Whoops-a-daisy.
I'm sure they're
boy.
good.
Goodness me.
I think Adam Lindgren and Justin Prince, maybe.
Well, you can definitely catch that with Race Spot TV later this
No.
weekend on the iRacing Esports Network.
Well, that's
At
the European
GSRC,
one.
my apologies.
GSRC, yeah.
GSRC, there is the move for Aston Hurley. Down into the Griffin's Bend. And Dwayne Burns really couldn't do much to fight that. He did try to fight it in the braking zone, but ran a bit too wide, and now he's got himself right in the clutches of... That's Matt Andrews there. And that is going to be for position as well. So that position change between Hurley and Burns, bringing Andrews right into it for a top 15.
Joe Peak and Adam Lindgren, okay? There you go.
There we go.
Alright, so gap's over 12 seconds. In theory, if they both pit and do it cleanly with no mistakes, Hins should still be in the lead of the race. And this is what I was worried about when Dance opted to leave his short stop until the end, not making Hins actually fight for the spot.
Yeah, that's what's done it. Allowing Hins to skip away on his own and just focus on his own race. And it's when you're a top driver, if you're in your own race up at the top, that is when you are at your best. You don't have anyone bothering you. You don't have any distractions. All you have is your obligations to yourself, to your car, to your race, and that's it. Wayne Taylor, meanwhile, looking at a top 10 once again here, starting to advance on Shane Bowen with the gap under 8/10. And you know what? I have just taken a look at Cameron Dance. He went into the chase and immediately got on the clutch pedal. The revs dropped down. So now Dance, I think, looking to shorten his final stop as much as he possibly can, as we see someone in the pits. That's Stephen Williams from 18th position.
I'm looking at Mark Newton, and he is not coming in.
Alrighty.
That was an anticlimax. So
Well-
Williams is in, first car to do so for the final time of the day.
Yep,
Theory.
and the pit window is open to make it to the end, so Williams should be fine from here, and everyone who pits after should be fine as well. But tell you what, Newton is sticking really nicely with Matt Danson here. Obviously, I didn't expect him to fall away right away, but he's actually fighting back here versus Danson now. He's in the slipstream coming up to Griffins, stays behind through the corner, but I don't know, man. Matt Danson continuing to lose that pace. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe Danson set up his car for a hot track, and maybe the track cooling down over the race is catching him out.
I think just raw pace. Danson had the advantage because he had younger tyres, but now that, as I said earlier on, the longer you go, the tyres start to plateau out. They don't continue to fall away in terms of lap time. So now they've equalised, and Newton's just able to keep pace with them.
Thomas Hins into the chase. Got a little bit of traffic. We'll see if he decides to fire it into the lane. He's not got no chance from there as the kinetic car of Dean Mole lets him go. What about Cameron Dance? Out of the chase. Got O'Leary still right behind him. No stop there for Cam, and O'Leary elects to stay out as well. Troy Allen letting Jamie McKnight go there. Moved on over off the line. Danson with Newton right on his tail. Gonna have to be careful at his next stop. Tiny bit too much curb there for Newton, and electing to stay out once again. So I think Newton's got a bit more in the tank than we thought. Careful, mate. Little bit of lock-up of the rears into Murray's. Helps no one.
Helps the guy that didn't lock up.
This is true. Matt Danson now has a bit more of a gap to play with as Jonathan Bean and Dwayne Burns take their pit stops. Out comes Dwayne. Daniel Stevens bringing it in as well. And it looks to me like that is Harold Stadler as well from position 8. That promotes Alex Cord up into P7 for the time being, but we should expect him to come back out once the cycle ends at around 14th, maybe 15th. What about Shane Bowen and Wayne Taylor? Well, Taylor on probably one of the best strategies in the field, outside of Thomas Hens.
Newton.
And Newton,
Mark
too.
Newton, yeah.
Yes.
Don't forget Mark Newton.
Thank you.
Sportsman split driver as well, so really punching above his weight, in theory, for this race. I think that's part of the reason he was down in 19th. Thank you, Siri. I wasn't asking for it.
Yeah, I was going to say...
my phone's muted as well. Why is he speaking? Anyway.
She just wants to be a part of the broadcast.
Yeah. Hey, we got the third commentator you asked for. So... I've forgotten my point.
Damn it, Siri. Throwing us off.
I don't even know who I was talking about.
We're hearing that Newton is having tech issues. He's disappeared from the circuit. He is not behind Matt Danson anymore. He's not coming back. I get the feeling that Mark Newton's race is done.
No.
Oh,
Newton.
that would be such a shame after such a strong drive.
Come back, please.
He ain't coming back, I don't think. What a shame. Well, at least that means that Matt Danson has one less car to worry about in his pursuit of consolidating a top 5. Taylor continuing to chase Bowen as he is now in the top 10 after Newton disappearing.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yep. He gone, mate. He gone.
Sat on his name for a while. We'll get the message come up in a minute. There we go. There it is. Receive 3. What a shame for Mark Newton then. Officially, he will fall to at least a lap down. Probably 2, maybe more.
Well, he gave it a red-hot go, and he showed what he can do at the very least. He made a great name for himself in this Bathurst 500. Peter Vostrel, by the way, back out on the circuit. He only lost 3 laps thanks to his tech issues, as there goes our leader into the pits. So now, this is where the screens will light up. Dance will know that Hins is in, and he elects to stay out. O'Leary comes into the pits. Jamie McKnight on the exit of the chase. He is going to come in as well. So Cameron Dance sticking it out there.
So this pans out. Hins is going to have the benefit of the undercut now on newer tyres. Going to give him another advantage over Dance. O'Leary is pitted in 3rd, McKnight in 4th. Danson continues. Keep an eye on McKnight's stationary time as well.
That I am. So Matt Danson promoted then to 2nd place as he goes on through. Thomas Hins with a 37.1 second time in his box. First one away. So a full fill for Mr. Hins. Jamie McKnight, 27.6 seconds.
That's quick.
Yeah, and he's beaten O'Leary. There we go.
Well, we knew O'Leary was going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Going to be interesting to see. Nah, Dance will move forward. because McKnight's come out where Dance was, really, relative to O'Leary, but Dance is going to move forward from O'Leary. So he should still be safe from McKnight. This fight's still with Hinds. Will he come in on this lap?
Oh,
Steady.
up close and personal with the wall on the Exeter Forest. That's one of the many places on this circuit that doesn't seem like much, but you know, you put your car 1 millimeter too far to the right, and that is your lap done. As we see Bowen come on in and Luke Critchley bringing it in as well, getting his spare car. Pop goes the bumper onto that Commodore.
Much needed spare car for him. Here comes Dance, turning left, taking that pit entry. Don't overdrive it. Keep it off the grass for the most part through the chicane.
Nicely done.
Now, don't think he's going to take his spare car here.
Matt Danson in second. We should. We don't know exactly when we should expect him in.
Now? Oh no, he'll go longer, won't he?
Yeah. He went much longer than anyone on the last run, so I think he's trying to stretch this one all the way out to probably lap 60, lap 69, lap 70 probably.
Thomas Hinds coming into Murray's corner.
Dance is still stationary.
Dwayne Burns in front of him. Down the main straight. Into turn one. Hinds well clear of Dance. I don't think Dance even did a short field at all.
Nah, no, he didn't. That was 30.5 seconds stopped for Dance. So that's actually a shorter stop.
Yeah, it is.
Gained 7 seconds on him.
30 seconds is what we saw from the short fields earlier on. McKnight's was the standout with 27. But
yeah,
there you go. That's the lead. Thomas Hinds with a healthy margin.
Well, now it's up to Cameron Dance and his driving ability alone to try and catch up to the Zuva racing machine up ahead. And there's evidence there of someone having a bit of an off-track excursion at McPhillamy. Matt Danson staying well clear of that.
Hinds is being really held up right now, though, by Dwayne Burns.
Yeah, right across the top, too.
Been behind him this whole lap. Aston Hurley up there as well.
And this is the awkward thing in this part of the circuit when you're trying to run your own race like Burns is. There's no real convenient place you can pull over and let someone by. At the entry to Conrod, though, with a slightly compromised exit, that's going to allow Hinds through, but a little bit awkward moving from side to side of the racetrack for Hinds. Little bit more time lost that he wouldn't have necessarily wanted, but at least now he has passed Dwayne Burns on the straight and he can continue his advance.
Danson has stayed out again.
It looks like this last stop has spaced everyone out. There's no full-on battles for position going on at the moment. My JRT is highlighting Phil Otto and Mark Newton, but of course we know that Newton is out, so that's just an anomaly. Ooh. Who was that locking up ahead of Dance as we take a look at the visual gap back to Jamie McKnight. So that's his fastest lap of the race, Jamie McKnight, 2:05.65 there.
Gap is 6 seconds. So it was cut in half. But cut in half isn't enough. Hinds is going to get held up again here. He's behind Aston Hurley now.
And once again, this is coming up to the top of the mountain where there's no convenient place to let a lapping car go. So Hinsey at least having the gap across these fast corners where he can really take advantage and continue to increase his gap, but he'll have to back off down here.
Hurley's not going to let him go up here because he's in a fight with Dwayne Burns behind.
Indeed.
Which is why Burns didn't let him go either.
So this is
And
going to
Saul
be...
straight.
This is going to be Conrod straight then. Oh, Hurley locks up, runs wide, and that is Hinsey right on through. And that's going to give an advantage to Dwayne Burns here. He's now back in the draft range of Aston Hurley.
Counterpoint, Cameron Dance has to get through these guys at some point.
This is also true. There's
Although-
Wayne Taylor.
Generally, it is harder for the first car to get through than the rest because, I don't know, I guess the laps cars aren't thinking as much about getting lapped until they have been. If that makes sense.
It does. I know that I've been in that position myself before. You just
Getting
run your
lapped?
own. Yeah, absolutely. I have had bad races, believe it or not.
I thought they were the good races.
Nah, mate.
Up 65 of 81.
Chase saying that you're probably getting him and me confused, Ryan. But
Ooh, a self-roast.
yeah.
Those are rare.
Well, it basically takes the opportunity away from you, doesn't it?
Well, I suppose so. 6/10 then between Hurley and Burns in this battle for P14. I'm not able to glean any draft off Hinz because he's checked out.
Yeah, look at the gap he's carried out already, and only halfway through the next lap. Hinsey, of course, wasting no time, and neither is Jamie McKnight because he's taken half a second out of Cameron Dance on that last lap. Gap now under 6 seconds, well and truly, between these two. 2:06.2 for Dance and a 2:05.79 for Jamie McKnight. So Mr. Danson then up at the front. Of course, 17 laps ago, as you can see on the bottom of your screen. Last time he pitted. So we shouldn't expect him in for at least another 6 or 7 laps with the way he's been going. There goes Mr.
Bowen?
Championship leader into the pits.
Oh,
That's
Leslie,
Will
yeah.
Leslie.
It's going to be a remarkably short final stop for Danson because he's only going to have to put a few litres in the car. Enough to do, if he really stretches, enough to do about probably 6 or 7 laps to the end. Which will be stationary for what, 15 seconds?
Jay estimates 22 seconds final pit stop
So
for
you
Danson.
Add transit time to that. Looks like he's still going to be behind O'Leary though, unfortunately, because he's only got 28 seconds in hand over O'Leary, and transit time's a lot more than 30 seconds once you cup in stop.
Yeah, the full pit lane transit time can be anywhere from 50 seconds to in excess of a minute if you're putting a full tank in. So, awful lot of time lost there. I think Matt Danson is going to come away from this with obviously a few regrets, but I still think he's made a good showing for himself in this race. He's still managed to keep himself in the top 5 battle, despite his mistakes.
I wonder if this whole thing has stemmed from not getting pole.
You
By
know,
not getting pole, he was behind Dance, and with clean air, maybe he would have been able to get by him and a little bit of a gap. Wouldn't have been trying to make up lost ground. He wouldn't have overdriven pit entry and spun.
yeah, there is the psychological factor to bring into that as well. I mean, if you lose out on pole when, you know, according to Danson and definitely according to us when we were watching him, he did look like the fastest car in qualifying with the potential to pip Dance to pole. But yeah, that one little thing can snowball if you're a certain kind of driver, and don't really know if Matt Danson is that kind of driver, but once again, it's a race of should-haves and should-have-nots, I think.
He's known to get hot-headed after an incident, but I don't know. One of those things. It's not a car he's comfortable in, comparative to his 7K R rating on oval. So, you know, I think it's definitely a better showing from him than you might have expected if you'd seen him on the entry list at like the start of the year, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure.
Takeaway is definitely he was the fastest car midweek.
Absolutely. He's still got the pace in these road races, and fortunately for Danson, we're going back to his wheelhouse for the final round, racing the old IndyCar at Auto Club Speedway. And Danson, of course, that 7KI rating in oval. If there's any driver in Oz NZ who knows how to turn left, it is Matt Danson, so keep an eye out for him in the final round.
Made through NASCAR. IndyCars are a different beast, but most skills translate. If you're not a fan of Aero Wash, you might hate it though. 14 to go in this one. He still leads the race. Yet to make that final stop. Last pitted 19 laps ago. Basically needs a splash and dash to get home, but he's looking at a 5th place finish. Aston Hurley and Dwayne Burns still battling. Still it is Hurley ahead of Burns. Dance has got by them both.
Looked like Dwayne Burns was dealing with a bit of understeer at the apex of Forest Elbow there. He wound on a bunch of lock right at the last second. So having a bit of trouble keeping up with Mr. Hurley. You can see the gap dropping on Conrod Straight. The draft is still in effect. Oh, that's way deep for Dwayne Burns. How did he not clean him up? Oh, I gotta catch my breath after that one. Whew.
Jammed on that brake pedal in the late phase of the braking zone to stop that car from running into the back of Aston Hurley, and they navigate a slower car. I think that is...
Oh, Jamie. Mr. McKnight trying to pick his way through all of this as well. Got by Troy Allen there in the red and white, the MF Racing Casual machine. His pro teammate, Jonathan Bain, coming on by in position 15. And there goes Jamie McKnight making his way past Dwayne Burns. So ultimately not held up a huge amount, but it did get a little awkward down at Hell Corner. The gap's back out to 6.5 seconds between Dance and McKnight, but knowing Jamie's pace, that should come back down before they come in for their final stop.
6.5 seconds between Dance and Hinds as well.
Equidistant.
What?
Equidistant.
Hey.
But they are the same distance apart from each other.
Ah.
Yes. Has this turned into vocabulary lessons with Reese Gardner?
Again? Yes.
Okay. Oh dear. Matt Danson sitting pretty. He might go another lap here. Practically guaranteed that he will.
You know how Majors races normally explode into life right at the end?
Yep.
I'm waiting for it.
I am too. I'm just training my eyes out there on the circuit and thinking, come on, guys. When's it going to happen?
Plus, it is Bathurst, and Bathurst always erupts at the end.
This is true. Hearing that there was a problem for Mitchell Bales, he's dropped out. Actually, he has. The received throughput has fallen.
Same issue with Newton.
That's no good for Mitchell Bales. He was looking good for a top 10, I reckon, after that one.
9 cars left on the lead lap.
There goes Troy Allen into the pits, bringing in for what should be his final stop of the night. Burns and Bain. Jonathan has been really advancing forward here.
Last year he finished, I think, with about 6 or 7 cars in the lead lap, so still a track for more than that this year. The winning margin not going to be quite as high. not looking like it's going to be 55 seconds.
Yeah, I got to say, especially compared with last year, it's actually been quite a competitive race. We've had Danson in contention. We've had Cameron Dance in contention, McKnight and O'Leary as well, but Thomas Hens has shown that he's the one best placed to take advantage of all of this at the moment. Got to say, though, all of the drivers that we highlighted at the front of the field would have had a chance at that P1 and would have deserved it, I reckon. I got to give props to the guys at the front of the field for largely keeping it out of the wall. I know that Danson and O'Leary have had some troubles in the pits, but out on track, you see these guys just flitting between the walls, maybe kissing them once or twice, and no big hits out up at the top. Going for another one is Matt Danson.
So a 23 lap stint. He could go again and make it a 24 stint. Looking for the ultra short final stop. Dwayne Burns no longer in a fight with Hurley, but with Jonathan Bain. Bain up to the back of him.
Yeah, as I said, Bain has really been advancing forward over the last few laps to within a second between the two of them. With Jonathan starting in 7th place, though, he is on a bit of a recovery drive at the moment. Burns as well, you could say. He started in 9th. So we just saw Matt Danson coming across the top of the hill, and Thomas Hens behind him, keeping it nice and smooth through Metal Grate and through McPhillamy as well. Hens, obviously, with a wealth of experience as well as McKnight. They have done the Scops Bathurst 1000 just a few weeks ago. So it's going to be 1.5 Bathurst 1000s now for Thomas Hens, I reckon. Oh, big lock-up for the car up ahead of him. That was Matthew Cloet, who has a clean car once again in the number 54. And Cloet getting into 10th at the moment, which is really good to see for him after starting in 14th. Actually had quite a few drivers advance forward. The biggest mover in the field, it's probably between Thomas Hens and Matt Andrews, because there goes Matt Danson into the pits. And Andrews and Hurley are both plus 11, so they're the biggest movers in the field. Oh, Matt Danson.
That was a fun entry to pit lane.
Yeah. A little bit of a rear lock-up, getting it slowed down in time. Through goes Hens, back into the lead. And now Hens is plus 11. So it's a dead heat between himself, Hurley, and Andrews for the most positions gained during the race. Cameron Dance moves on through into second once again.
Well, surely if there was an award for it, it would go to Hens for being the highest placed.
True that.
Oh, God, Reese.
I say that all the time, mate.
I'm so disappointed in you. So O'Leary goes by. Danson only just comes out of the lane now. Crucially, avoids driving into the inside pit exit wall. And he is in no man's land.
He is indeed. And I'll highlight that Jay was pretty much dead on with his prediction. Danson's pit stop time was 22.3 seconds. Yeah, so there we go. Danson now filtering back out into 5th place, with O'Leary quite a ways ahead. Danson just coming out of the cutting, and O'Leary at Metal Grate.
So, it seems like most of the major spots have sort of been resolved. Big gap for Hens. and for Danson, for McKnight, and for O'Leary, and for Danson. Alex Court's got 13 seconds in hand over Stadler. Taylor's a long way behind him. Shane Bowen's 5 seconds back from him. Blowett is racing with him. Is that it for position?
Seems like the closest battle is between Dwayne Burns and Jonathan Bain once again.
Yeah.
The 19 and the 019.
Throw Hurley in there as well. He's only just up the alley. You can just see him flash through the kink there.
Yep. Very viewable from Jonathan Bain's perspective that we're right on board with. Comparing lap times, well, Bain is the faster of these two cars. But it seems like every couple of laps, he makes an error that helps him to lose that time. As they come across the line again, it's a 207.4 for Burns and a 207.8 for Ben. See what I mean?
10 laps to go then at the mountain for the international region of the Major Series Bathurst 500. There's your third place man, Jamie McKnight, sitting very comfortably in third.
Yeah, there's no threat from Thomas O'Leary. Just coming through Griffins now as McKnight apexes the cutting. For Matt Danson, he doesn't have anyone to race with either. Car behind him is Dean Moll. So we check back in with Burns and Bain. They've been going tooth and nail, tit for tat, these two guys. But the gap's still staying at just over half a second between the two of them.
Bain can launch well off Forest Elbow. He might be able to set up a move down at the chase. See how this works out. Running right up against the fence. Pretty even exit. I think more in favour of Burns than anything.
Yeah, Ben is not in the range to make a pass. You see the time going down there. That's the draft in effect, but no move down at the chase for him. Goes to the middle of the road, has a little bit of a look, but ultimately not going for it. Way too far back, and Burns getting very aggressive with the curb down there. Meanwhile, our championship leader Will Leslie remaining in 17th, and once again all on his own. Credit to him though, he is starting to catch Stephen Williams for 16th place. Williams currently just coming up to the kink now. And with Williams' last lap time a 209.5, Will Leslie's last lap a 209.9. So 6/10 on the last lap, could be even more now. Okay.
Last lap for O'Leary, a 206.8. Matt Danson, a 205.4. So 1.4 seconds quicker than him. He's 7 seconds behind him.
And that was Danson's second fastest lap of the entire race, or if not the second fastest lap of the entire race. So Danson with great pace in this final stint. So with that lighter fuel load, he's really taken advantage of it now. If he keeps it clean, then he'll be right with O'Leary. I'd say probably a lap or so from the end.
I would say you're probably right. .9 seconds Hins has in hand over Dance. They're lapping about the same. And not showing any signs of that gap coming down. Definitely keeping an eye then on O'Leary and Danson. Leslie as well, reeling in Stephen Williams for 16th.
Jamie McKnight right in the midst of traffic there. running in third, just getting past Luke Critchley. Next car up ahead, Matt Andrews. And Danson making up 3/4 of a second on Thomas O'Leary from the exit of the elbow to the chase. That really says something about A, how well he's getting out of the corner, using the grip of those tyres to propel him out, and B, straight line speed. Seems to have it right now. And that's a new personal best for Matt Danson. 205.417 for him. So he's really loving it out there on those fresh tyres with a cooler track, and it's nicely rubbered in now as well. Had cars going around it for the better part of 3 hours. You'd hope that some rubber was deposited onto the racetrack.
And with that rubber comes a lot of marbles, so as you start to fall offline, it becomes more and more treacherous out there as well. Look at the track temp, it is absolutely plummeted.
Wow. And yeah, it's coming up to 4:25 p.m. in sim time, so you see a massive drop there from 3 to 4 p.m. around here. Of course, this is located in country New South Wales. It's a fair way away from some big urbanisation. There's a lot of green around the circuit as well. Turns to brown in summer, as you'd expect here in Australia.
Does it ever turn to white? Does it ever snow?
Occasionally. Occasionally,
oh, yes, it does. I remember.
It happened this year, in fact.
Yeah, it did.
It's always quite interesting seeing snow at Mount Panorama. Of course, not racing weather for these kinds of cars, but I'm sure we
I'd love to see it.
Look, I'm sure we can convince the governing body to, you know, maybe just drop Dunlop and Olive Branch and get them to bring out some studded tyres. See what happens. That's Matthew Clowett slowing down at the chase. Might have had another technical issue here.
It would probably introduce another way for a certain driver to lose the race. Getting stuck in the snow.
In addition to the literal thousands of other ways you can take yourself out here at Mount Panorama. One extra, whatever.
Motor Simulation Replay. That was just a tech issue for Matthew Clowett there. It's nothing to worry about unless it turns into Mark Newton, Mitchell Bales type tech issues, and you'd probably start to worry about it.
Have a look at Aston Hurley and Dwayne Burns. They are closer together than they have been for some time. Under 2/10 now that Dwayne Burns has. He's really pressuring Aston Hurley up in the first quarter of the lap. You see coming up behind them as well. That is going to be Thomas O'Leary running in 4th place. So I get the feeling that Burns and Hurley are going to be separated once again. Maybe not. We'll see if the pass happens nice and cleanly on Conrod. Matthew Clowett is actually back in this and just up ahead of these guys.
So I was just looking at Jake Fox there. He was very slow down Conrod straight. Wondered if he'd coughed the fuel, but I think he just lifted off to let Cameron Dance go by.
Well, O'Leary gets through on Burns. Matt Danson is still quite a way behind, so O'Leary has no threat from him for now, at least.
Yeah, he's not gaining by as much. Only 3/10 on that last lap. Leslie and Williams, 2:08.9 for Leslie. And he's dropped off, actually. So he's started to make some errors, and Williams is now looking more comfortable.
Oh, Clowett goes deep into Hell Corner. That's going to allow Aston Hurley. No, it's not. Have a look at this. Thomas O'Leary's going to go between the two of them. A little bit of extra contact. That was all started by Matthew Clowett going too deep into Hell Corner and backing up Aston Hurley on the exit. So that's really messed things up for Matthew Clowett. He's now behind both Hurley and Burns.
O'Leary, extremely fortunate, slipped through all of that unscathed by the little bit of paint that may have been rubbed off his right-hand door.
Well,
Battle for
shake
P11.
yourself off and keep going, eh?
Yeah, that P11 battle's going to resume now. Behind O'Leary. Clowett tumbles to the back. Hurley leads it. Burns in the middle.
This is going to be tight between these three in the last 5 or so laps of this one. Hurley is keeping pace really well with Thomas O'Leary, and he'll have the draft coming down the straight, but all these cars running in a line, you'd think Matthew Clowett at the greatest advantage with a triple draft. We'll see what happens down at the chase. Burns getting a little crossed up coming into Forest Elbow, but pulls it up nicely. And now Clowett with a slightly better exit from the elbow, right into the draft down Conrad. But doesn't look like he's... Oh, no, actually, no. He's not making a big effort to get by Burns here. I think because he knows it's only a few laps from the end. He'll have a few more chances, and either way, he doesn't want to lose time to Aston Hurley.
Oh, Clowett has a look. And he decides no.
Oh, Hurley.
Hurley, yeah, big slide. Check out Dwayne Burns. This may allow him to get up the inside for turn 1. He's got the momentum on the brakes, squirming. That rear end not sitting pretty. And now Clowett going to find an opportunity.
Yeah, and he's going to be on the inside for Griffins, which is pretty cool. Aston Hurley stuck on the left here. He doesn't want to move over because that's going to bring Burns into it, but Burns is going to lose out to Matthew Clowett here. Or is he? Trying to hold on around the outside. He gets into the marbles. No grip out there. And Aston Hurley running a little wide as well. So side by side on the run up to the cutting. And Clowett yields very wisely. But Burns
check out
sees
Burns.
an opportunity, sticks it in. But there is Clowett with the run round the outside. Puts the power down magnificently.
Jonathan Baines joining the party now, so it's now a 4-way fight.
Goodness me.
Matt Jensen's about to have a tough time getting through these guys.
Yeah. He's not that far behind them, and he's gotten the gap under 5 seconds to Thomas O'Leary. So this is a very inopportune moment here for Matt Danson with a 4-car battle going on up ahead. Got to be careful that none of these drivers crash in front of him as well, because I've been observing Aston Hurley, and he's been looking a little sketchy into some of these corners. He's already carrying some damage in a very dirty car as well. He's trying to hold on to that as much as he can. Danson's going to come up against Ben here. Potentially. No, actually. Hasn't advanced on him in time for the chase. And that is Daniel Stevens in the pits and going very slowly. Is that a blown engine or no fuel? I'm leaning towards blown engine, personally. Danson has a look at Jonathan Bain, but there's no yielding there. Remember, Bain sees 3 positions up ahead of him that he could potentially nab. So it looks like that's Daniel Stevens out of this one, potentially. He is out of the car, still sitting there in the pits and getting repairs.
Maybe his arms got sore from that force feedback.
I see that something happened to him, though. He actually... Oh, the engine blew on the downshift into the chase for Daniel Stevens. That's what happened to him.
To get that far into the race as well, that's kind of cruel. For the engine to let go at this point. Got to make sure that not only yourself but your car gets through the race. Dwayne Burns right up on Matthew Clowett, pressuring him massively through turn 2 and up into the cutting as well. Not able to find a route through. There's no route through at this point. Only 3 laps left next time he crosses the stripe.
Aston Hurley must be loving this. He's gradually gaining on Jonathan Bain corner after corner, and Bain getting over the curb at Skyline, nearly fired himself into the wall.
I think that was
No,
Chloe.
sorry, that was Cloet. My apologies. I'm getting them mixed up. It was Matthew Cloet who almost had a brown pants moment.
Look at Danson. Right on Bane now. Trying to pick his way through. Does he even bother? He's not going to get to O'Leary now. As they all go by a slower car than them. All, that is Luke Crishley. He's lifted off down that straight. That was,
I mean, there's lifting off and then there's lifting off. As Matt Danson goes through on Jonathan Bain, and oh, that was quite close. Danson went very deep into there. And so now Bain has dropped off that three-way pack just up ahead of him. Hurley, Cloet, and Burns. And Hurley actually losing out to the draft from Cloet down Conrod Straight. But we can see that he is stronger up the top, so that's all he's got to depend on at the moment.
lap times in this group. Hurley 280, Cloet 278, Burns 276, Danson 271, Bain 280 after he got overtaken.
So these guys all very close. It all comes down to the little errors made over the course of a lap. Burns right on the back of Cloet now. Tried to search for a way through on the run up to Griffins, but nothing doing for the moment. And now Danson right on the back of Burns here on the exit of the cutting. This is going to be awkward for both of these drivers. Danson has no choice but to sit behind. Burns wants to stick with Cloet here.
Look how close they all are to the fence up there, even this late in the race. They're not letting off. And, I mean, Danson's still pushing. I mean, I said he's not got any hope of catching O'Leary, but O'Leary's 4 seconds up there. If he locks up and runs through the chase or something like that, Danson can't afford to be on his laurels, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it. You got to keep fighting until the very last moment. So, Danson is going to get Burns here on Conrod, right on his bumper, out of Forest Elbow. And there goes the run. Burns will likely lift off a little early into the chase, or even just run a little bit less throttle down Conrod to let him go. And that's brought him out of touch with Matthew Cloet now. 2 laps to go for our leader, Thomas Hins. So there's still a chance here for Bean to make up a position on Burns.
Or for Burns on Cloet, or Cloet on Hurley. Because once Danson gets by those two, they'll get slowed up as well by him. It's exactly what happened to Burns and Bain. As Danson slipped by, they got held up, which is inevitable.
.2 now between O'Leary and Danson. 4.1. Danson getting helped in the draft here of Matthew Cloet. Thomas O'Leary. Oh, I just flicked over to him and he got on one big slide out of Griffin's corner. So O'Leary starting to slip up here. Yeah, he's getting oversteer at every single corner. It is the way to do it, but if you want to be fast, not necessarily.
As long as you're not taking the Bo Albert line through turn 2, you...
Oh, goodness, and Bo is watching too, so you have got a target on your back now, Mr. Jones. Whoa! Is that Matt Danson going around the outside at McPhillamy on Matthew Cloet? Ah, okay. That was quite stressful to watch. What is the gap between Danson and O'Leary now? 4.2, it's still the same. Like another slight slide for Aston Hurley there, just up ahead of Matt. But he's got a nice healthy draft now that'll help him to close the gap even further to Thomas O'Leary. But the final lap begins for our race leader. I get the feeling that 3.7 seconds in one lap, unless Thomas O'Leary has a smash, there's no way Matt Danson is going to get him.
probably right there. And I think this 11th place battle's decided as well. Dwayne Burns goes way too deep, overshoots Murray's corner. Jonathan Bain's going to go by him, and Burns will be the last of them all in that P11 scrap. He will be P15. P14, sorry. Hurley has got a comfortable margin over Clowett in turnover betting as well.
Well, Dwayne Burns fought long and hard, but ultimately that's how it's going to end up for him. A lot of drivers giving it a red-hot go into every corner here. Thomas Hinz has been the one to rise head and shoulders above the rest. He's barely put a single foot wrong over the course of this race. After starting in 12th position, using his vast amounts of Australian touring car experience, he's been able to nail the strategy, go for the short fill early on, and that helped secure it over Cameron Dance. The Fitstye car could not respond to Hinz's pace, to Hinz's strategy, to Hinz's drive. Now it's only 4 corners for Mr. Hinz, and he can seal a Majors win. And the only round he's made an appearance in this season. That green Zuva car looking especially beautiful to everyone out on track at the moment. A little bit of a celebratory slide out of the chase for Thomas Hinz, and it's just Murray's corner to go. A dominant run from Hinzy, and he takes the Bathurst 500 in the international division of the Majors Series. Brilliant drive.
Cameron Dance in his championship fight, a big boost to his points. He finishes second. Jamie McKnight as well turns up and makes his debut this season with a 3rd place.
The gap was going down. See, Matt Danson is right there at the top of the screen for Thomas O'Leary, but he's managed to do just enough to secure 4th place. And Danson, after being in contention for the win, going for a spin in pit lane, has to settle for 5th place. But Thomas Hinz will be a very happy camper right now. And Alex Court, I mean, what a drive from him. Started in 13th place, and he stayed out of trouble the whole way through. We've barely given him any airtime at all, and he's only gone and finished 6th.
Keeping it clean, just like he needed to do. Fantastic effort from him as the last of our drivers come across and finish off their 81 laps at Bathurst. Phenomenal effort to finish such a long race, 3 hours or so at the wheel for them.
Indeed, and the last couple of cars to come across the line will be Wayne Taylor and Shane Bowen as Harold Stadler takes 7th. He would have been hoping for a little better after starting in 4th, but still a good run for the Legends Championship leader, and he's, I think with Daniel Stevens' retirement, he's pretty much secured the Legends Championship now. Here comes Wayne Taylor, started in 6th and remaining in the top 10 all race long. I'll go ahead and say it, I think this is the finest drive Wayne Taylor's had this entire Majors season. Very well-deserved 8th place for him, as Shane Bowen then comes across the line to finish in P9, and that's the last car on the lead lap.
Should take a look at our full results then from Mount's Panorama.
We should. It is Thomas Hinz who takes the lead by 9.048 seconds from our pole sitter, Cameron Dance, who will still be able to have a shot at this championship in the final round. Jamie McKnight completes the podium with Thomas O'Leary in 4th, Matt Danson 31 seconds behind in P5, Alex Court coming home in 6th with Stadler 7th, Taylor 8th, Bowen 9th, and Matt Andrews, after starting in 22nd, that is plus 12 positions for him, finishing in the top 10.
Ashton Hurley's plus 12 as well, started 23rd, finished 11th, Matthew Clowett 12th. Bain and Burns 13th and 14th, they were all in that big battle towards the end of the race. Stephen Williams picks up 15th. Will Leslie 16th after starting from pit lane. He might lose lead of the championship. Going to be very tight heading into the final round between himself and Dance. Dean Mole 17th. Luke Critchley, first car 2 laps down in 18th. Ahead of Phil Otto in 19th. And Troy Allen 20th.
4 laps down, finished Gavin Barber for MF Racing Sports. He beat Peter Vostrel by a lap, and Vostrel sticking it out towards the end despite his technical issues. Well done to you, mate. Mitchell Bales, 5 laps down. That was a very late retirement towards the end, as was Daniel Stevens with a blown engine at the chase. Jake Fox couldn't make it all the way to the finish. Mark Newton suffered some internet dramas, and despite running for a potential top 5, has to settle for a non-classified 26th place. Daniel Misdale and Pierre Cousin were the last 2 drivers to compete in this event, and Pierre, unfortunately, not able to make it that far in with some very heavy damage to start things off. Well then, it is time to do some very quick driver interviews. The first driver we're going to talk to is our race winner, the number 52 of Thomas Hinz. Hinsey, congratulations. Bathurst 500 win for your first time in the majors this season. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, thanks, Reese. It was good. Sort of decided, I think Thursday, Friday or something, I'd do it. So when I collied, I missed the Q1 thing, so I had to start from a little further back, but they made it fun because I could do some lobbing, which I always love. If you know what I love doing, I love nothing more than lobbing up inside or wherever. It was good fun. It was just working my way through. Had a little, the only real thing really was I tagged the wall at Metal Great in the second last stint. I did feel like they just dropped a little pace, so I wasn't able to pull quite the gap I wanted before the last stint, but it was enough anyway, so it didn't really matter, thankfully. But it was really good fun and really good all round. Everyone was really good, so yeah, good, great stuff.
Obviously, using some of your experience in the Scops 1000 to help you out with this. You've already got a lot of mileage under your belt around here in this car, so that made your preparation a little bit easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. You know, a lot of it was already sort of there from that, so it's just a case of obviously doing the practice laps, and that kind of was enough to get me back in the groove. So that definitely helped. And obviously, then we had the setup from that we could just straight up pretty much use, which was nice. So done a lot when I think about it. Done that, and I think I did the official 1,000 with some guys as well, and yeah, a lot of mileage this year at 1,000 for Bathurst and Supercar. So yeah, that definitely helped. So good to have that back me up there. So.
Well, we did expect a few outsiders to this championship to come on in for the Bathurst 500, and obviously you being one of them. Would we expect you to make an appearance in the final round of the season as another wild card entry? It'd be good to see you out there.
Yeah, I will see. I have to look at whether timing, as everything with me, because I work night shifts. It's all be interesting fitting it in, and my reward for this is I'm going to work in a couple of hours, which is good. But that is my crazy life, I suppose. I'll see how it tees up. But hopefully, I definitely will be keen if I can. If I can, I'll definitely have a lob. I'm always up for some oval. I keep meaning to do more oval, but I just don't have the time. I never get around to it. And then I do one race in a blue moon. I'm like, God, I need to do more oval. And 6 months later, I do another race. So yeah, hopefully I can fit in. So would be good fun. Majors is always a good time, as I say, showed again.
Indeed it is. Well, before we let you go, Hinsey, is there anyone you'd like to thank for me garage?
So obviously Bzuva, Ra2, Fifth Gear Motoring, all the sponsors we have, Sim Racing Channel as well. Big thanks to Henry for 2 things. One, for making just a livery that is so good, and giving me permission to run it first year. Also, thanks Henry. So that, and also helped me with the strategy. Wasn't able to join me to spot, but he gave me a little bit of a strategy. He was like, "Look, this is probably going to work," and so I pretty much followed that, and that worked out pretty well. So thanks again to Henry for just being the mastermind as he always is, and I guess Brett for the setup work from Scops, and yeah, just the guys for being awesome. Majors obviously for putting on a great show as they always do, and you guys for putting on a great broadcast as well. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much, Thomas Hinz, race winner in the Bathurst 500. Next up, we've got second place finisher Cameron Dance, stood by with Ryan Jones.
Cameron Dance, P2 today after getting it on the pole, led early on, but in the end, just short.
Yeah, a little bit short, but hey, at the end of the day, we came into this race knowing we had pretty good pace, and with the fact that there was Hinsey and Jamie and a few other quick guys out there, it was going to be a little bit debatable as to what was going to happen in terms of finishing position. But second place at the end is still massive, especially with the fact that Will finished way down the order in P12. I know he's doing it tough at Eric's place, so it's a little bit even after the Silver Crown at Lucas Oil. But yeah, it was an interesting race. I actually was caught out a little bit by Danson being as quick as he was, considering he actually never drives his cars. But at the end of the day, we did what we had to do, and we came away with a decent points haul.
Yeah, you certainly did. In terms of the pit strategy, you got jumped there by Hinsey. I said during the race maybe you should have done the short stop in the second stop like he did to cover him off. Opted to do at the end. Any regrets there?
Really, I knew, like, as I said, Hinsey and Jamie were probably going to be a little bit of a threat come the later part of the race when they were able to use their pace a bit more properly and not have to worry about coming through the field. But it is what it is. I mean, we knew who was around us, so it was just a matter of trying to work around who was in the championship and trying to get maximum points.
Well, a good job today then. Still a good result for your championship. Who do you want to thank for helping you get it done?
Yeah, just first of all, shout out to the boys at TechSense Fitstyle Motorsport and Mez for jumping in and spotting. Our sponsors are TechSense Sensors, Renville Harnesses, Demon Tweaks, Fight Colorectal Cancer. You guys for putting on an awesome broadcast, Mike for the awesome series, everybody for the awesome racing, and yeah, I'm going to go have a beer because it's well worth it after that race.
I think you should check another chat. You have games to play. We all have to unwind, Cameron. Hey, good job. We'll chat you later.
Cameron Dance there, second place in the Bathurst 500. The final driver we're going to interview tonight is Horizon Racing Team's Matt Danson. Welcome back to the commentary box, Matt. First time we talked to you in quite some time, and you were in contention there for the lead. Almost nabbed pole, but ultimately a top 5 at the end of it.
Yeah, what a race. Big time choke in quali, like you said. P2 is pretty cool, I guess, but I know I had better speed than that. But I guess I need to practice pit entry, because that's 2 races now that I've junked on pit entry.
Yeah, and Cameron Dance obviously telling us that these cars are not incredibly familiar to you, so you had your work cut out for you preparing for this one.
Yeah, it's definitely not my scene, but I'm trying to learn road, get a bit better at turning right. But yeah, just frustrating because I don't know if it would have made a massive difference to my finishing position. I probably still would have been maybe at best P4, I guess. But I just had a lot of mistakes throughout the race. It was pretty poor. I guess that's what comes with more experience in this sort of caper. Like the just consistency. But it was still fun.
Yeah, certainly looked like fun out there. We did notice that the track temperature was dropping very abruptly throughout the race. Do you think that might have had something to do with your consistency?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think I just I think I got a bit too. I wasn't looking on the bigger picture, I guess, and even the strategy. I think I probably missed the boat on the strat there. Like just going for the short final stint. My plan was, okay, we'll be in the pits for less time, but obviously I think I kind of short-sighted with how much of a difference the tyres would have made, and I don't know, again, that's sort of experience there, but
it's still a good run from you, Matt, and I guess now we've only got 1 round to go, and it's roughly in your wheelhouse. Yes, it is the IndyCar, but we are back at Ovals at Auto Club. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I don't know. IndyCar, it's a different beast, isn't it? Like, I mean, the Indy 500 was, we were semi-quick, but I don't really drive the car, so I don't know what to do with setup and that. But thankfully, there's Major's Garage, which is obviously really good, so I'll have to get around that, and we'll see. We'll give it a good shake, because I think where do I have to be, Reese, for the playoffs? I think I've got to be top 50.
Oh, yeah. I think so. We're not quite sure. We're not quite sure, Matt. So that's going to be a surprise for all of us. But before we let you go, Matt, anyone that you'd like to thank at Horizon Racing Team?
Yeah, well, thank the boys, Horizon Racing Team. Obviously that's on the oval side at some point. Looking to get into, like I said, the road side. So if there's anyone looking for someone who's really good at crashing on pit entry, yep. Who else? Vegan Food Melbourne. The missus, her blog there, so that's pretty cool. You guys put on the stream. Hopefully it was entertaining viewing. I'm sure it was. And majors, all that good stuff. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Matt Danson, finishing in 5th place in the Bathurst 500. Hopefully we see him again at Fontana. Well, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight. Thank you very much for watching. We appreciate your patronage to the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure that you throw us a like and a sub and all of that fun stuff. And be sure to catch the next round, the final round of the Majors Series. In just a few weeks' time, we are racing at Auto Club Speedway in the Indy cars. It's going to be a tough fight between Will Leslie and Cameron Dance for the championship title in the pro standings. Who is going to come out on top? You'll find out with us here at SimSpeed TV. Big thanks to the Majors for setting this whole thing up, and a big shout out to Mission Australia as well, the charity being supported by this round. I'm Reese Gardner. Ryan Jones was in the commentary box with me, and Jay Kennedy making everything happen behind the scenes. It's bye for now, but not forever. We'll see you next time.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?